All right, welcome everyone to another BCV broadcast. I am your host, SaikoWoods, and I'm glad to see that everyone is here. Those who will just be jumping in, give you a few moments because I know it is a Saturday morning. You're probably walking around in your underoos and getting your cereal and maybe just finished watching cartoons. So y'all know how we used to do back in the day, bro. Saturdays, bro.
Know about
Kids, bro. Come on, they don't know nothing about that. Yeah. They don't know nothing about that. You would get up in the morning to watch cartoons, bro. Before everybody,
right.
Yeah, look, 7 o'clock. If you went up by 7, bro, you was already gonna miss the good stuff. So you may want to make sure you was getting up.
All the milk was gonna be gone by then. So
come on, bro. Yeah. You get your fruity pebbles or your corn. No, you ain't doing a cornflakes. You did either. Let me see, Captain Crunch.
That's it.
There you go.
Crunch berries,
Yep.
Frosted Flakes, maybe. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's right.
Yeah, so that's how we got down back in the day. These youngers don't know nothing about that today, bro. So you gotta put them up on game on that, bro. So yeah. So anyway, we're gonna wait a few moments for those who missed to be joining in, but I am excited this Saturday. Those who are just watching us live, I have two guests that are law enforcement officers, and they have a ton of information to share with you on today. So please, before we get started with this discussion, I need for those of you who are watching, those my Facebook family, YouTube family, please like this video. Please share the video. Please hit the notification bell. Those of you on YouTube, that way when we do go live and when I am live, you'll be one of the first ones to have your eyeballs and your ears onto this channel. So I appreciate that. Give this channel a thumbs up as well. Get the algorithm going. Also, again, please tell a friend about this broadcast. This is how we get information out to the public, how we get information out to those who are looking for truth and looking to have honest dialogue. Again, so I definitely appreciate that. Also, if you like to support the ministry financially, you can definitely do that. I'll put the information in the chat later on during the broadcast, and also it is already posted in the description on YouTube. But PayPal, SaikoWoods at yahoo.com, you can go there to support the ministry should you choose or feel led by the Lord to do that, or also through Cash App, $SaikoWoods, SAIKO Woods with an S. You like to support the ministry, also just do merchandise. You see the BCV, which stands for book, chapter, verse, up there on the upper right hand portion of the screen. I'll put that also on the in the description and in the chat room as well on the Teespring link. Again, thank you all for joining us. I know it's a Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon for those of us who are in different time zones. And if you're watching this later on, thank you for joining us. Thank you for tuning in. It could be anywhere else, but you decided to hit that link and hit this description in the channels, and also being able to join us on today. So again, I have two guests that have decided to go out of their way to come on to this live, to come on to this broadcast, to share some information with those of you who are looking for answers to questions that you may have been wanting to know, or may have been told false information, may have been told lies, may have been gaslighted, may have been mind screwed, may have been played. Either way it goes, you have not been given actual information. And so these two gentlemen represent the law enforcement community. Corey Taylor, Michael Bradley are guests of mine. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on today. Welcome to the broadcast, gentlemen.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Now, listen, I want people to know some information about yourself. So first and foremost, they already see your names. Corey, I'll start with you. Tell the audience, tell those who are watching this a little bit about yourselves, about your broadcast, about your channel that you and Michael co-host together, and what brings you on here today.
All right. Well, hey, good afternoon again. Like I said, thank you for having us on your show. I'm Corey Taylor. I'm a retired Navy Chief Petty Officer. I did just a little over 20 years. I'm 21 years of service with the United States Navy. And I'm a former Virginia State Trooper. I was with the State Police Department for 7 years here in the good state of Virginia. And I'm also a business owner. I have a small business, a restoration company. And so, yeah, how did I get started? Mike and I were together. We're the brothers-in-law. what happened was how I came up with this idea was, everything was going on last year with the riots and the killings, just total chaos going on last year. Yeah. I one night I woke up like around 1, 2 o'clock in the morning with just like something just weighing heavy on my heart, like I had to do something.
Yeah.
I just, share knowledge, because there's no reason why when you interact with law enforcement, it should go bad. Somebody should end up hurt or dead. There's no reason. So I came up with the acronym of C.A.L.M, which stands for comply, answer questions, listen, and move on. And so I said, well, how do I get all this out here? What do I do? That's why I started a YouTube channel. I said, well, I don't know if I can talk long enough just by myself, but I know somebody who can talk just as much as me, and that's my boy, Mike.
He put you out there, Mike. He put you out there. On the cool, too. You know how he did it?
That was suave.
Hey, but, and Mike had just recently retired from the police department out there in California. So, what better person to ask? I'm on the East Coast and he's out there on the West Coast. And to top it all off, he and I are childhood friends. We grew up together, and it was church that actually kept us together. Even though we lived on different sides of town, church kept us together. And here we are, Mike, 40-something years later, we're still tight as, ever could be. So we have a YouTube channel called Brothers in Law, BROTHAS-N-law. And we're just continuing our service, giving information about traffic stops, give you some points and tips to make you feel safe. And so that's where we are, and that's who I am. Just trying to make sense out of all this and try to bring some reason with all this chaos that's going on between law enforcement and the citizens.
Well, what made you become a cop? What made you become a police officer, though, Corey? I mean, I think that's an interesting question to ask as well.
For me, it was a childhood dream, and Mike's going to tell you something here different.
Okay, cool.
Here in a second, but it's pretty interesting as well. But for me, it was a childhood dream. I didn't know if I was going to be a police officer or not, but I knew I wanted to be in law enforcement. So an attorney, probation officer, FBI agent, Secret Service, police officer. I just knew I wanted to be in law enforcement, but I think the Lord had a different path for me, put me in the military. I guess you could say now that you can look back over the course of your life, you can see that, he was grooming me and preparing me for something else.
But Mike, what about you, man? Tell people about yourself. What brings you here? A little bit of information about yourself, your experience, and what you're about.
Well, I'm from Canton, Ohio, just like Corey said. We grew up together. I'm a military vet. I did 6 years in the Army and was stationed in Massachusetts to Korea, and then ended up out here in California at Fort Ord before it closed down. I was getting to a point where you get that 6-year itch, or that 6-year mark in the military, and it's like either you're going to re-enlist or you're not. You're going to get out and do something different, So I knew that I didn't want to spend a career in the military, and I had gotten what I wanted to get out of it. So a buddy of mine, but I really didn't know what I was going to do. I wasn't one of those guys that always wanted to be a police officer. Matter of fact, growing up, I never even thought of being a police officer. Rarely even I never was associated with police at all growing up. I mean, I can't tell you the truth. I can't even remember more than 5 times when I actually saw a police officer. You know what I'm saying? Never spoke to a police officer, never had any interactions with police like that at all, But so I was getting out of the military, and a buddy of mine said, "Hey man, let's go to the police academy." And I thought about it for a few days, and I said, okay, yeah, I think that's a good transition from the military to police. I wanted something along the same lines. I was always a people kind of person.
Wow.
You know, I felt that I always had good communication skills. And so I went on and put myself through the police academy. And next thing you know, I got hired as a police officer and had done 26 years as a police officer with the city of Pleasanton.
Wow.
In Northern California, which is probably about 25 miles east of Oakland.
Okay.
That area, if you're familiar with that kind of area, the 580, 680 interchange. But you know, I loved being a police officer. I got a lot of I'm very proud to have been a police officer. Was most of my career was as a patrol officer. I was with the crime prevention unit, teaching people about why cops do what they do and crime prevention techniques and things like that. I was a bike officer for a while, and you know, I was that officer that when you called the police, I was the one that showed up. You know what I'm saying? Wow. So I'm very proud to have done that. And when Corey hit me up to do this YouTube channel, I had retired, and I'm thinking like, okay, I want to do something. You know, I was still young, 50 years old, and it's like, okay, got to do something here.
Yeah.
And Corey hit me up and said, hey, let's do this little YouTube channel. And I had already liked telling people why cops do what they do.
Wow.
And I thought about it, and I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. It's a way, no matter what side of the fence you on with the incidents that have been happening in the last, year or 2 years, the information that Corey and I will tell you will apply no matter what side of the fence you on, no matter what kind of officer you come across.
That's a bold statement, Mike. That's a bold statement.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I mean, we're doing it, you know.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Now, how long have you guys been doing your channel? How long have you been doing it?
Well, about 2 months now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
about 9 videos on there. Think it is.
Yeah.
Let me tell y'all right now. Then those who are just joining us live, I have my guest Corey Taylor, Michael Bradley, former LEOs, law enforcement officers. Do me a favor. Go to their YouTube channel right now, brothers. BROTHAS-N-Law LAW. Hit that YouTube channel up as well. Like their channel. They got some good information on there. Just only 2 months into this YouTube game, and they're putting information out. I really would encourage you all to do that. You gentlemen have any children, family?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm married. I
had to put it out there because you almost forgot about your wives, bro. I mean, come on, man. They ain't saying that.
We talking law enforcement. We talking law enforcement.
You know. Wife's gonna say something about this.
Right.
I'm married. I got 3 kids. I got 2 grown kids, and I got a daughter. So and it is what it is.
Yes, absolutely. What about you, Corey?
Yes, sir. I'm married. I got 4 beautiful children, 2 boys and 2 girls, and 2 grandchildren.
Now, y'all had your children. I'm assuming y'all were still police officers during the time.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can you kind of like describe a little bit some of the concerns or fears or frustrations that you may have been told by your family, your loved ones, when you leave to go out in the morning, were they always concerned, praying that you brothers came back home?
Sure.
Yeah, for me, that was always a challenge. I just wanted to make sure my kids understood. Number one, I wanted to make sure they understood what I do for a living. You know what I'm saying? What a police officer does, what is expected of me on a daily basis. And number two, we tried to keep the mindset that I was always going to come home, obviously, right? That's the thing. At the end of the day, everybody want to come home safe, sound, and enjoy the weekend. And
that includes police officers, right? So police officers have the mentality. You're saying that cops want to come home. They don't wake up in the morning saying, how many people I can shoot today?
No,
right.
No,
right. No, nobody thinks like that.
Regular people, we were regular guys, regular neighborhood guys going to work, doing a job. Yeah, it's a job that is not like most jobs, obviously. Being a cop, when you're doing that 10-hour shift, you're constantly in a state of like there's anxiety going on. There's you're always waiting for that next call, and you have no idea what that next call is going to be. Wow. So obviously, you know, it could be anywhere from you going to a 3-car crash pile up with someone dead in the driver's seat, or it could be a death notification, or it could be something small like a neighborhood watch meeting where you talking to people about crime prevention stuff. You know, it's just such a wide range of things that a patrol officer does. So, you know, it's you just try to tell your family. My wife was already in law enforcement. She wasn't a police officer, but she was in the field working at the same place I work. So she understood very well how that worked. What about you, Corey?
Yeah, for me, I guess I'm blessed. My wife, again, this is where I say I thank God, you know, when He prepares us for certain things. So me being deployed and have gone, you know, off to Iraq several times, and you know, she was always, you know, I would think prepared for when I leave. But I can tell you, she had a lot of sleepless nights. You know, like Mike said, we're human beings. And the one thing I always never wanted to do is to keep her in the dark. So I try to keep her informed of, you know, how dangerous the job is and things of that nature.
Right.
You know, I remember one time I had got into a fight on the side of the road. Actually, we were in the highway fighting in lane 3, and for protocol purposes, I had to go to the hospital to get checked out, make sure I was okay and everything like that. So I remember my supervisor came in there, and he was like, "Hey, Corey, you want me to?" Because actually the hospital was like literally right down the street from my house. I mean, you could look out our back window and see the hospital. And he said, "Hey, Corey, you want me to go get your wife?" I said, No, don't do that. Don't do that. Because it's something about when that officer goes up to your door.
Wow.
And your spouse and knocks on that door late at night. Man. They already know it's not good. And you're supposed to have been home. This happened. I got off at 10 o'clock that night, and this was already past midnight.
Okay.
So if I was ever late, 15 minutes late getting home, no matter what shift I work, she was already calling my phone. "Hey, where you at?"
Yeah.
Right. And that's all you know, I was just at the store or whatever, talking to, you know, a citizen. She knows I like to talk. So, okay. I just make sure everything's all right. So, you know, spouses go through a lot. They go through a huge emotional roller coaster. It's just not all, you know, roses and dandies for them, you know, at home every time we go off to work. They're in a
you good, bro. You good.
They're in an emotional position too, wondering not if you know, we're coming home.
That's right.
Just as much as we wonder that ourselves, you know, like Mike said, you know, when you kiss your loved one goodbye that morning, afternoon, or night, whatever the case may be, you don't know what's going to happen.
That's true. That's true. You know, when you go on to work, you really literally hope to come home safe, obviously. And God, you know, willing, I was able to do that every day.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But my wife, she half the time she went to work with me. So she was on patrol. She was what you call a community service officer. And community service officers, they do pretty much everything a police officer does, except they don't carry a gun. And they're not a sworn personnel, right? So they do whole reports like burglaries, theft reports, things like that, right? So she was on the street with me half the time and could hear the calls that I was going to. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. She would be sitting in briefing with me sometime and, you know, hear what we talk about in briefing. So she wasn't a stranger to that. She kind of had a firsthand view of some things that I was dealing with on the street at times. You know what I'm saying?
Wow. So then, have y'all had to have those unfortunate, I guess, death notifications either for a civilian or even a police officer or a cop?
Oh yeah. If you had asked me what was the worst part of my job as a state trooper, I would tell you it would be death notifications. And you know, and I give the state police credit in that training. And when we were in the academy going through that portion of training, I mean, they made it so realistic that, I mean, man, if you weren't human, you were getting choked up just going through that training. But I don't think there's no amount of training out there that can really prepare you to do a death notification.
No.
Can you guys describe that? Yeah, give me an example if you don't mind. You know, we either one, doesn't matter.
So,
I mean, because I want people to understand the kind of stress that's involved in the work that y'all did.
So the very first one I went, now I had been with the department probably almost 2 years at this time. Mm-hmm. And I had gone that whole time and not having to do one. So I was like, wow, okay, cool. But it was on a Saturday, and I heard the incident over the radio, and it was a couple of counties away. But the gentleman lived in my area that I worked. Okay. So I was like, oh, okay. And I got the phone call from my dispatch. Hey, we need you to do a death notification. Right there, my heart just dropped down to my stomach. It's like, oh man. Yeah. So I called the trooper in that area where the incident happened, and I got all the information I could from him. And so we never go alone. We always go with another your shift partner, we call you. Mm-hmm. And so I remember going to the elderly lady's house. She was probably at that time, maybe in her mid 70s. And he and I, my shift partner, we walked up the door. He's like, all right, Corey, you know, this is your first one, so I'm gonna go ahead and let you take lead on it. I was like, all right, you know, I knew I had to do it. Yeah. So I think it was still morning time, maybe late morning. I go up to the door, knock on the door. She opens the door. She sees us standing there. And I say, you know, good morning, ma'am. My name is Trooper Taylor with Virginia State Police. May we come inside? And she says, no. I said, ma'am, may we please come inside to talk to you? We need to talk to you. Man. She says, no, no. She started saying, where's he at? Where's he at?
Wow.
And so I recalled, ma'am, your husband is. So where's he at? He was supposed to be here by 5:30. Where's he at? Ma'am, I'm sorry to have to tell you, but at 05:30 this morning, your husband was killed in a car crash on the highway. Hmm. And at that moment, she just collapsed and had to catch her. And so we then get her back inside the house. I'm trying to give her, you know, all the information that I had, you know, what happened, when did it happen, time, everything. And so my shift partner, he goes next door to get the neighbors. Yeah. Get the neighbor to come over. Then we start, you know, try to help them, you know, make phone calls, get phone calls to try to get the next relative over to come over. So he managed to get a hold of the grandson, got the grandson over to the house, and then he started getting everybody else. So as she's trying to process all of this, I then started talking to the pastor. He ended up coming over, and I just ended up trying to pass the information over to him. Yeah. And so we got that done. My shift partner left, and then I started to leave, and then I got to the end of the street, and it's like, oh my God, I forgot to tell him this. At that time, I was like, man, do I just forget to tell him this, or do I go back and, oh, by the way, I messed up, you know, here's something else, another piece of information I forgot to tell you. So now I got to do the right thing, man. I got to go back. So I went back to the house, and luckily, as I was walking back up there, you know, everybody's turn around and, you know, looking back. And so I called the pastor, and I was like, hey, pastor, man, I speak to you. I said, hey, by the way, I forgot to mention this. He's like, oh, hey, Troop. Hey, man, I truly appreciate you coming back to do that. So, you know, from that point, I mean, it never gets any easier to do, And one thing we did learn in which I think is very helpful when you deliver notifications like that. We were trained ever to say, hey, they passed or they're no longer here. No, you must tell them that they are dead or they were killed, because those two words are what really registers with people when they hear them, versus, because if I say, oh, I'm sorry to tell you your loved one just passed, well, you can say, well, pass where?
Okay.
Right. Or no longer with us. They're no longer with us. Or, well, where did they go?
Right.
Right. So it's straight to the point.
Right.
They're dead or they were killed. Because those, like I said, those two words are what register, to you. And even listen, I went through it's called C.A.L.M. You're probably familiar with, because you were in the Navy too. Training in the military is like, we have mass casualty and a lot of deaths and everything. You're tasked to go do notifications. Even that training combined with the training I had as law enforcement, I mean, it still was. I mean, it's just. I don't think, like Mike said, I don't think there's anything out there that can really prepare you to do something like that.
Right. And that's something you would never want to get used to doing anyway. It takes away the humanity out of it.
That's just it. You don't want to get used to doing it anyway. I mean, it's like that it's part of your job is a little bit, it feels odd, actually. There is no easy way to do something like that. I mean, and for an example like that, you have to be able to you're still human before you're a police officer, you're a human being. And you got to go and approach that situation like a human being. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you're in uniform, you're knocking on that door. You got to tell that person that their loved one is gone.
Yeah.
And there just is no easy way of being able to do that, especially because you're a stranger to them. You see what I'm saying? If they don't even know you, and you come up and you telling them that kind of news, you just got to be, you got to put that hat on and do it the best that you can. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we do pretty much the same way that Corey just described. We would call a chaplain, we call a family member over to come sit with them. A lot of times I had death notification. Well, it wasn't a notification. It was responding to a home where someone had passed, whether it was through home care, whether it was through suicide, something along those lines. So you have the body there with the family member right there. And a lot of times the family member has no idea what to do, So you're trying to talk them through that, funeral home arrangements. I mean, as a police officer, when you do so many of those, you just have it in you have a callousness in your mind to a sense, because there's a procedure that we have to do as law enforcement officers, for the body, instructing the family to do A, B, C, and D, in addition to supporting them, finding someone to sit with them. So there's a lot of elements just to that alone that can make that difficult.
So I think also a lot of the stuff that y'all just described, we haven't even got to the surface of I mean, to the nuts and bolts of everything else that y'all do. But just in that alone, man, I mean, people like me on the outside, when I say people like me, those who are not law enforcement, have no clue on the day in the life of an officer and what they go through. I've heard people do ride-alongs. I think that would be something that would be, that would be for those who are the naysayers, those who are the LeBron James, and please don't let me forget about LeBron. Don't let me forget about y'all hometown boy. I told him, a promise is a promise. I got to bring that one up before I even let y'all go. Y'all got to give me y'all commentary about your man. All right, but but for those of us,
I still like LeBron. Like LeBron. I'm gonna chalk that up to do a ride along. Know your police department. Know the people who patrol your particular area. You see what I'm saying? I mean, that was something that like I said before, when I was coming up, I didn't have that experience. I didn't try to get to know my police department really.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, and these days, I think that's important, is to build, when we say those buzzwords, building relationships with the community, that's real. You see what I'm saying? That's real and true. Your police officers that patrol your area should not be strangers to you.
That's good, man.
Right.
That's a good point. That's a good point. That's real. So let's talk about then, that's one of the most difficult aspects of your job, death notifications. What would you, or let me put it this way, would you say traffic stops is either one of the most dangerous or the dangerous aspect of your job?
One of.
Yeah.
Where would you rank it? What would you rank it in the tier of dangerous and extremely dangerous?
Number 2.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, because when you think of traffic stops, you're thinking of the unknown. You don't know who you're stopping. You'd like to believe who you're stopping, but you just don't know. You could be stopping somebody who just killed their family. You see what I'm saying? You could be stopping somebody who has something against the police and they just don't want to be stopped. So they're not going to go with the program.
Right.
That's the thing about traffic stops. Any detail that an officer responds to where you have these unknown elements, they don't know what they're going to be facing. And usually when people are calling the police, it's because of something bad, right?
Right.
Unfortunately. So same way with traffic stops, you're doing a traffic stop, which is most of what a patrol officer does. That's probably half the activity that he does in his day is traffic enforcement.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? No matter what it is.
Right.
So that's the thing. Traffic stops are very dangerous, especially at night. Because you don't know who you don't know. You can be walking. You're already vulnerable as a police officer just walking up to the car.
Man,
if you had somebody who was ready to blast you, right? They already got the drop on you just by you walking up to the car. So keep that in mind as a police officer. In the academy, through training throughout your whole career, traffic stops is one of the main things you train on. Everything in a traffic stop that an officer does is tactically sound. It's a process from the time you spot a violation to the time you pull them over on a location on the side of the road, and how you approach the car, how you talk to that person, what you're going to do, how you walk back from that car back to your patrol car. There's tactics to every step of the traffic that people don't realize.
Wow. So then, I mean, I don't know if you all heard this. Go ahead, Corey. Go ahead. Finish. Go ahead.
I would say you asked us to rank things. I would say the number 1 will always be domestics.
Really?
Domestic violence calls.
Domestic violence.
That's another unknown, right?
Yeah, that's definitely another. Yeah, I mean,
most of the time you got limited information on the call when you responding to that call.
Wow. Okay.
Right.
So you already know you're going to a situation where you got people that are heated and arguing or whatever they're doing.
And I guess also, and on top of that, they have the one up on you as well, because that's in their house. They know where every room is. They know where. I mean, you pretty much are put yourself in vulnerable state.
Yes.
Okay.
You don't know who's in a closet or whatever. Now I'll tell you a double one is having a domestic on the interstate. You know what? I never knew those things happened on the interstate until I became a trooper. I'm like, wait a minute.
Wow.
Guy beating a girlfriend in the head while she's driving down the road. And, not only do you got to worry about what's going on there, but you got your surrounding elements of the highway. Because now at this time, everybody trying to rubberneck, trying to see what's going on.
Right.
And it could just end up in a very bad situation. So, I would say domestic 1 and then traffic stops 2 for me.
I'm along the same lines. I agree.
Yeah, somebody, Robert Nesher said, my husband's friend who had been in many situations got called to a domestic situation, and the woman who called stabbed him in the back. And I'm pretty sure that's not a figure of speech. I'm pretty sure that's not a figure of speech at all.
I can understand stuff like that. Domestic violence, you think of a crime of passion, people, when they're talking about their spouses or family members, family can get pretty volatile.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. When you call the way I look at it as a domestic violence situation, when you call the police, that's because you've already lost control of the situation.
Right.
So the police are already responding to a situation that's out of control, right? People, I think a lot of times, a standard response from a patrol officer to a domestic violence situation is, number one, you hear what the dispatch is giving, the information that the dispatch is hearing or dispatching out on the radio. So when you're en route to a domestic violence call, you are already getting this information as you're responding to the location. So as the person on the phone is telling dispatcher he or she is doing A, B, C, and D, that dispatcher's already, there's a second dispatcher that's already given us that information while we're en route to that call. So in our mind, we're formulating the plan already. So we're responding. We got the stress of knowing what we're responding to if the information that the dispatch has given us is accurate.
Right.
It's not always accurate. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Automatically, an officer is thinking, are there guns in the house? Does anyone have warrants in the house that we need to know about? Is there anything physical happening in the house? These are all the questions that an officer is going through in his mind and asking dispatcher at the same time while they're responding to that call. So then you get to the call, okay? Once you get to the call, you want to obviously contact the parties that are involved to see who do we need to make an arrest here? Do we need to take any kind of action here? What has gone on? Has the crime of domestic violence, as far as the California Penal Code section is concerned, has that actually happened? We have to determine all of that. But the first thing an officer has to do is get control of the situation. Remember, I said we already responded to an out of control situation.
Right.
So we need to take control of the situation, get everybody contained and secure, so we don't have somebody, like Corey said, we don't have somebody jumping out the closet at us. You see what I'm saying? Or we don't have somebody who had left the scene and then is coming back with a gun to shoot everybody up. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's why it's important that officers control that scene. And I think a lot of people don't understand when an officer comes into their home and that officer comes across as very authoritative, giving orders, telling them to sit down here. That's because they are trying to get advantage and control of everybody in that home.
But now, Mike, let me interject one point.
Go ahead.
What about these people? Because just when you just said, when that officer enters into your home, the person that does not understand what you just said are probably going to have a defense and say, "Well, wait a minute, but he's in my house, though. I don't have to sit down. I have to sit down. Wait. You don't tell me what to do in my own house. How do you respond to that?"
Very tactfully, because you're going into someone else's house. You have, as an officer, you have to make it clear to them, listen, ma'am or sir, you called us here to take control of the situation. I'm having you sit down because most of the time when I explain to them why I'm telling them to do something, then they start to calm down. They start to understand the reasoning and logic behind it. Man, I'm having you sit down here so I can control the situation, not control you. So people tend to get offensive when you use words like, I'm here to control you. You see what I'm saying? No, I'm having you sit down so I can control the situation and find out what's going on so I can hear both your side of the story and their side of the story. You see what I'm saying? Absolutely. So there's words that you use to try to calm them down and to be able to control them. But obviously control is the number one thing because you want to be safe. You want to keep them safe and you want to keep yourself safe.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Right. Absolutely. So these traffic stops, I heard a very popular YouTuber. I'm not sure if you all may know who this individual is. And I think, Mike, I'm not really sure if he even lives in California, but his name is the Amazing Lucas.
I haven't heard that.
Amazing Lucas. Okay. Well, he's a YouTuber. He has hundreds of thousands of followers. And so, of course, with that type of influence, people are open to listen to what people like that have to say. His statement was that police officers don't always have to have their weapons when they're doing traffic stops. Come to that. It's not necessary for a police officer to use their weapon in a traffic stop. And I said, so number one, that's dumb. Number two, what would make you think that police officers should not be on the, like you already said, because they're approaching the vehicle, then what you gonna have your hand on? I mean, you know, at least you know that you want to be ready when you approach that vehicle. But for him to say that, and not only did he say that, but it was the mayor, I believe, in Minnesota. Brooklyn City. He said, he made the statement as well. And so you have two people of influence making those statements regarding how police should be policing.
Well, me personally, I think they're living in la la land. You can't operate like that. Now, Michael is going to give you examples of what they're doing up around his way in Berkeley, but
sure,
I have my personal opinions on that. You know, like I said, number two is a traffic stop, right? It's that unknown when you walk up on that vehicle. You know, you have those tools around your waist for a reason. You know, you know, it's not pretty. This is law enforcement. It's not going to always end beautiful or textbook, like we say. But you know, you have those tools around your waist to be one up on that individual in the car, because, like I say, you don't know what they had just come from, what they did. Example, I was working midnight shift one time, and I'm drinking my coffee. I hadn't planned to do anything. I just wanted to chill and answer my calls on the radio. It's midnight, right? So I was sitting in a crossover, drinking my coffee, and I turned my radar on and get this high Doppler tone in my radar. Looked at it, said 102. I was like, man, I thought it might have been interference because it was still a little bit far away.
Wow.
And you was mad that you had to put that coffee down.
Yeah. Then it got closer, and the signal got a little bit stronger. And I'm looking at the headlights like that joker right there getting it. Well, I'm just thinking, okay, 1, 2 o'clock more, he could be drunk. Did he just, you know, kill somebody, whatever? Long story short, we get in this pursuit. He crashes. Can't find out he ended up being a drug dealer. So, I mean, and you know, I couldn't imagine. And he was a known, one of these known drug dealers that carry weapons and stuff on him. Wow. So I'm not sure I would want to have gone up to that vehicle when he crashed without a weapon to be able to defend myself, because you know you got to get into the mindset of some of these criminals now. When these guys get out here and get in trouble again, reoffend again.
Yeah, they ain't trying to go to jail.
They don't want to go back to jail.
Yeah, they ain't going back. They'll tell you that. I ain't going back to jail. They'll tell you that.
They'll rather die than go back to jail.
Yeah.
Right. And they're convicted felons and everything. And again, they're not going to obey your gun laws, which like we would, because we're law-abiding citizens. But, you know, the criminal's not going to abide by your laws, your gun laws. And so every time I come in contact and they happen to be a felon, I'm asking where the weapon's at.
Right.
I'm a convicted felon. I mean, you know, that don't mean nothing. I don't care. I know you got some guns somewhere. Hey, you ain't changed. I mean, go ahead on with that.
Right.
But their attitude of police officer not having a weapon to do a traffic stop, like, good luck with that one. I mean, I don't know how you can make it work, but go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree. I mean, you know, think of it this way. I just heard this on YouTube or somewhere not too long ago, but there's more guns than people in this country, right?
Yeah. Right.
Police officers, at least half the people they deal with are criminals, right? People that are up to no good or shadiness or something like that.
Right.
So we're gonna assume that you have a gun until we prove you don't.
That's
when we contact you as a police officer, just to be safe, I have to assume that you might be armed. You see what I'm saying?
That's right.
Until I can establish that you aren't, whether that's pat you down, whether that's, you know, make whatever it is to make sure you don't have any weapons.
Right.
So you know, whether people realize it not or want to admit this or not, you know, people have guns here in America.
Right.
So it would be silly for an officer whose job it is to enforce a law to take people's freedoms away from them, to restrict someone's movement, to to do a traffic stop where you don't know who that person is you're stopping. That would be silly to say, well, we're going to give you everything else, but we're not going to give you deadly force.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Because it's not like, I mean, that's unrealistic to think that you will never, as a police officer, come across a situation where you might have to use deadly force or at least have to draw it out. Now, unfortunately, in my 26-year career, I have never been in an actual police shooting, and I'm proud to say that. Yeah, I've had to draw my gun on people plenty of times.
Really?
You see what I'm saying? But fortunately, it never got to a point where I actually had to pull the trigger. Most officers in their career, 95% of officers in their whole career never go through an actual police shooting, and that's good. You see what I'm saying? But that, I think just that type of statement sounds like it's coming from someone who really has no knowledge of what police work is about.
Well, that's pretty much the media, though, Mike. That's pretty much the media. That's pretty much entertainers. That's Hollywood.
The media can be the worst.
Yeah, I mean, that's my point. You know what I'm saying? So remember back in the day, during the East and West Coast beef.
Yeah.
What did the rappers say was their enemy in hip hop? They said it was the media. The media was the one that was stirring up the mess. The media was the one that was causing all the confusion and all of the chaos and stuff. It was the media, and it's really no different than today. So you have people of influence with the microphone who are ignorant, and they're putting out information that is not true, and it's causing those who don't investigate themselves or don't follow up and do their own research to push back on that and say, wait a minute, hold it. I mean, the police are not the enemy to black people. The police are not trying to shoot black people at alarming rates. The police are not trying to just corral black folk like cattle and throw them in jail. You know, the police are not the ones that are the mechanisms from the school to prison pipeline, as you know, the media and as you know, Hillary Clinton has been saying. The police is not that. That's not the problem. So when you have these engagements with people, particularly in traffic stops, you gentlemen, you brothers have put up an acronym, and you guys brought an acronym. You mentioned it earlier in the live, you know, Corey, Mike. I want you guys to break that down. I want people to understand, you know, how do they be calm, or what is the acronym for calm, and what are those elements and how they can apply that? Because what you said earlier, Mike, is that if you do this, then you shouldn't have any issues. I mean, you made a very bold statement in saying that. So when you're stopped by the police, when them lights are thrown up, automatically, you know, we become anxious. We're like, oh Lord. Yeah, in my place, am my registration good? Am my insurance? Did my wife pay my insurance? Did she did she do all, you know what I'm saying? You already, your mind racing, you know what I'm saying? Lord, I got my seatbelt on. I mean, you know, where the weed at? I mean, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. How do you respond now when you're pulled over in a traffic stop? I think y'all mentioned one thing earlier, and I want to talk about this too in the context of this calm. I don't know if y'all saw the story, but the news had put up a story of a 67-year-old, I think, or whatever, in her mid to upper 60s. She was pulled over by the police and I guess snatched out of the car. And what the media was showing, that she was being roughed up. And but what they didn't really say, or what they minimized, was, and I think y'all talked about this in one of y'all videos, the lady did not stop when they had their lights on. The woman had them driving, or in pursuit rather, for 10 miles. 10. Y'all mentioned that before in one of y'all videos. So yeah. When you see those lights on, what should the driver do once you are encountered by a police in a traffic stop? So
with the acronym CALM, comply, answer questions, listen, and move on. What we're saying is, if you do these things here, there's no reason for you to end up with a scuffle with the police or end up in a shooting with the police. Right. Because when you're complying, you're doing as they're instructing you to do. If they're asking you questions, you're asking, You're answering their question. You're listening to the commands. Hey, come over here and sit down. Get out of the car for me. All right. And at the end of the result, you want to be able to move on. Now, whatever that means, either it's getting your ticket and you driving off, or if you did something that violated the law and you have to go to jail, you go to jail. The bottom line is you fight in court, not on the side of the road. Now, what calm is, when you're staying calm, what you're actually doing is taking away from the officer to have the ability to do something stupid, right? Or do something that escalates the situation more. Because when you're not complying, you're not answering questions, you're not listening, those send up red flags to the officers. Okay, are they trying to hide something from me? Why aren't they telling me? They're lying. They know they did this, but they're telling me they did that. Right. All these flags start to go up, and that's going to start then to probing more into it, doing police work, investigating, figuring out what went wrong. But if you're just up and up and game over, yep, it was me. I did this. All right, sit down. The more you're doing these things, these 4 key components, complying, answering questions, and listening, and hopefully being able to move on, you're not going to end up hurt or killed, or the officer's not going to end up hurt or killed, right? Because I always say, and we talk about the do's and don'ts of policing, and I think, Mike, that was, correct me if I'm wrong, our first video that we did. The do's and don'ts of policing. What do you do when you see those lights come on? All right. I recommend turning your hazards on. Get into the right side of the road. If it's not safe, the officer will move you to a safe location. Right? Don't take it upon yourself I'm almost home. We're like 5 miles from the house. Let me just go and drive home. No, don't go and do that.
Now, why can't they do that? Why can't they just go to their mama house? Yeah,
I'm gonna tell you, don't go and do that, because now, if I usually give you about a mile, if you don't stop within a mile, I'm calling out a pursuit. And what that does, that goes out to all your ship partners, and everybody's coming to you. Right? Everybody's coming to you, because this guy or girl is not stopping for whatever reason. Reason for traffic stop, refusing to stop. All right, and whatever the violation was, expired registration, speeding, 75 into 60, whatever case may be, you're calling it out over the radio, and you decide to go on home because you're just 5 miles away, and then you get there, and now you got 6, 7 police cars. Everybody's gonna be out and almost to the ready, because now at this point, you make it to the house, I don't want you to get in the house. So what do you think my mind said? Because, all right, you ran from me 5 miles, you get to your house and you're trying to get out and go into your house. I don't know what you have inside that house.
Right. But the mama told them, if you get stopped by the police, or the police, try to pull you over, you come just having to follow you to the house. You got some people who would say that.
Yeah, you do.
Come on, let's be real. Let's keep it a buck.
That's I can't say that's nothing more wrong than that. I mean, even like Corey was saying, even the location where I'm stopping you. Yeah, I might be following you for a minute, already knowing I'm going to pull you over.
Right.
But I may not want to pull you over in a particular area because maybe I think it's not safe, or I think it's not well lit. You see what I'm saying? But when I hit them lights, I have a general idea of where I want you to pull over. You see what I'm saying? So that's why it's a tactical reason why an officer wants the location where they pull you over. That's part of the traffic stop. People don't realialize that.
Do y'all loudspeaker when you tell them something like that? So like if you pulling them over and they're not in an area where you need them to be, would you use your loudspeaker and say, hey, pull over here or something like that to inform them?
Yes, that's a common thing I would do, is get on a loudspeaker. Once you pull over, I'll get on a loudspeaker, and if there's a parking lot or something up the way that's not a lot of cars in it or something like that, I'll get on a loudspeaker and I'll tell you to go pull forward until you get to that parking lot and turn right into that parking lot. Gotcha. Or I'll get out of my car, approach you, and tell you in person, I need you to go and pull over here, wherever it is. The officer will instruct you on how to do that.
So bottom line
is pull over.
So bottom line, the first letter in C.A.L.M, of course, is C, which means to comply, right? Comply. And so what I want to do, gentlemen, what I want to do, brothers, is this. For every acronym, I want to give an authoritative text to the acronym. Okay. So because there's some people who are on this live, and some people may watch this live, who will say, well, I mean, that's okay, that's the law. I have my rights. But now, if you are a Christian, if you profess to love God, Jesus said, I ain't said, God wrote it. I just quoted. He said, if you love me, you will keep my commandments. So one of the commandments that God has given to us is to obey authority. Romans chapter 13, verses 1-5 says this. I want to read it. I don't want anybody to think I'm making it up. I'm just quoting the scripture without giving you the text. So we're talking about complying. We're talking about being calm. Well, these brothers just gave us some instructions as law enforcement officers, telling you and I, when or if you are stopped by the police, the first order in engaging the police is to comply. Scripture says that you are to comply. Scripture says you are to obey every governing authority. It would even matter if it was a schoolyard cop or a traffic yard or a crossing guard, rather. It wouldn't matter. They represent authority. You are to stop. So Romans chapter 13, the Bible says in verse 1, let every person be in subjection to the governing authorities. For there is no authority except from God, and those which exist are established by God. Therefore, he who resists authority, he who does not comply, he who wants to exercise their constitutional rights over the canon of Scripture, the Bible says, has opposed the ordinance of God, and they who have opposed will receive condemnation upon themselves. For rulers are not a cause for fear for good behavior, but for evil. Do you want to have no fear of authority? Do what is good, and you will have praise from the same. For it is a minister of God to you for good. But if you do what is evil, be afraid. Why? For it does not bear the sword for nothing. That sword, these gentlemen, these brothers was talking about, them tools, that ain't just for accessory purposes. It ain't just to show how they can match their colors, okay? Those tools, those swords are there for a purpose. Everything that's created has been created and designed for a purpose. And those tools are designed for a purpose as well. He says, for it is a minister to you for good, minister of God to you for good, for it does not bear the sword for nothing. For it is a minister of God, again, an avenger who brings wrath upon the one who practices evil. God says it's evil when you rebel against God-ordained authority. God says it is evil when you refuse to comply. It's not that you can't, it's that you won't comply. You refuse to pull over. You refuse to get out of the car. You refuse to follow instructions as these God-ordained authorities has given you. But wait a minute, there's more. 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 13. See, some of y'all didn't think we was going to have Bible study. Psych. Gotcha. 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 13, the Bible says, submit yourselves for the Lord's sake to every human institution, whether to a king as the one in authority, or to governors as sent by him for the punishment of evildoers and the praise of those who do right. For such is the will of God, that by doing right you may silence the ignorance of foolish men. Act as free men, and do not use your freedom as a covering for evil. Brothers, I'm pretty sure y'all ran up and pulled up on folk who want to pull up their quote unquote, I know my rights. I know my rights. I'm a U.S. citizen. I'm a taxpayer. And some will go as far as say, I'm a veteran of these United States. Doesn't matter. Yeah. It don't matter. The popo done pulled you over. The popo has given you authority, giving you orders rather, for you to comply to their authority. So it doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter who your mama is. It doesn't matter who your daddy is. It doesn't matter. The Bible says clearly that you and I are to obey and to submit ourselves under these people who represent God's authority. He says, do not use your freedom as a covering for evil, but use it as bond slaves of God. Honor all men, love the brotherhood, fear God, honor the king. Wait a minute, there's more of you brothers. Hold on. Verse 18 says this. Verse 18 says this, guys. It says, slaves. I ain't nobody's slave. I ain't gonna be nobody's slave. No problem. Hear the principle of it. Slaves, be submissive to your masters with all respect, not only to those who are good and gentle, but also to those who are unreasonable. The word unreasonable is scolios. We get the word cricket from. For this finds favor if for the sake of conscience toward God, a man bears up under sorrows when suffering unjustly. For what credit is there when you sin and are harshly treated, you endure it with patience? But if when you do what is right and suffer for it, you patiently endure it, this finds favor with God. So I'm pretty sure, gentlemen, brothers, that y'all have gotten, run into people and or even heard stories of people complied and you have some police officers that may have abused their authority. You just mentioned, both of y'all just mentioned, the street is not the time to hold court in session.
That's right.
So when you gentlemen find people or hear about people who have encountered bad police, because we know that there's some bad cops out there, regardless to what you may hear in the media, regardless of what you may even perceive or think. Y'all are telling the viewers, y'all are telling people here right now on this live, do not take the law into your own hands, or do not become a street attorney. Why?
Very important, very, very important question, very important statement. When a police officer's out there doing, we've been talking about traffic stops, so I'll stick with that for now. But when they're doing a traffic stop, they're doing their job. It is their authority to be able to stop someone for a violation. A lot of times I used to get complaints about, you'd hear something, you don't have anything better to do, officer, or you pulled me over for that. That's not a important enough violation for you to pull me over. A brake light out. Some people feel like that's not an important enough violation to be pulled over for. People don't like when their rights are being taken in their eyes, what they feel, or their freedom is being stopped. People don't like that. But this is your police department. This is the community's police department. Understand what their job is. Traffic enforcement is one of those things. It's part of their job. Stopping you for no light on your license plate is, in California, a vehicle code violation that you could be pulled over for.
Same here.
That you feel that it's not big enough, or if it's not important enough to stop you on your road to going home, that officer knows you're on your way somewhere. Okay, well, let me comply, answer my questions, so you can listen and move on. I know you want to get home. I want to get through this traffic stop as much as you do.
And get to your coffee, huh, Corey?
That's right. That's right. So let me do my what I'm saying? Let me do my A, B, C, and D, and you can move on, and I can get you on your way. But don't be upset because I pulled you over for a violation. Everybody said for a stop sign violation. Everybody argues with the cops and say, "Well, I know I stopped at that stop sign, officer." They all say that. They all want. Everyone wants a break, but our job is to write tickets or give breaks, and sometimes we got to write a ticket. You see what I'm saying?
Do y'all have quotas? Or can y'all tell us that y'all got quotas? I mean, just,
no.
Actually,
in California, we don't have quotas. Now, let me say something. No, we don't have quotas.
Okay,
but you do have something called shift expectations. You see what I'm saying?
So,
if the guys on your shift are writing, I'm gonna just use a loose number. Say they writing 10 tickets a day, right? And you got 1 ticket a day, right? Well, you best believe your supervisor is gonna look at you like, I see that the rest of your shift, they're on average of this many tickets. How's come you so far below the average of the amount of tickets you write? And I just use tickets loosely.
Yeah.
There could be other reasons for that. That officer could be involved in other calls for service, might not have had time to do stuff, but whatever it is, you do have shift expectations.
Gotcha.
It's not called quotas, but they don't expect you to be for a 10-hour shift. You better be doing something. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And proactivity is the biggest thing in California. It should be for any officer across the country, for that matter. You ain't just sitting back in the corner watching, for 10 hours and not doing nothing. You better be doing something.
Gotcha. You have to justify that 40-hour work week.
So y'all not. We don't have. So y'all not just. I mean, let's go put these rumors out here and put them to bed, I guess. And y'all can confirm or deny. So y'all not just eating donuts.
No, I like donuts.
No.
So y'all not just eating donuts and coffee.
Donuts as much
I drink my coffee now. I do drink my coffee. But let me just say this.
Hey, ain't nothing beat a nice warm glazed donut. I'm telling you.
You had to be able to justify that 40-hour work week. Now, at the end of the week, now I'll say this before I get to that point. Here for us in the state of Virginia here, we have the right to issue a summons, arrest, or give you a warning. Now you ain't gonna come in at the end of the weekend and have 15 warnings and then write any violations. The supervisor's gonna look at you, hey, what are you doing? Wow. So and if you want things, it'll behoove you to go out here and do your job. They're paying you to go out here to do enforcement. Right. For us, traffic violations, equipment violations, work your crashes. There's some supervisors that believe that somebody need to get a ticket on a crash. You work a crash, somebody better get a ticket because somebody caused that accident or that crash to happen. Don't come back here and nobody got a ticket. You mean right? Nobody ticket.
Right.
No. So I mean. Yeah, you're not saying there's no quota, but we do heavy traffic enforcement, for holidays and stuff like that, because the number one job is to ensure highway safety.
Right.
And it's funny.
Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's a common question too that we get as police officers is when you talk about I lost my train of thought. Go ahead, Corey. Keep going. So I lost my train of thought there. I was going to say something about
that old age.
Go ahead.
Yeah, he'll get it back.
No, you just got to be able to justify that 40-hour work week. They're paying you to do these things. So you go out here and you do your job. And when you're interacting, I mean, this is how we get the drug dealers. This is how we get the guns off the streets, by these, what you may take as a simple traffic stop usually ends in, you getting drugs and you're getting a wanted person, things of that nature. So when you get out here and you do these things, this is how we do, crime prevention, right?
Right.
What I was going to say real quick before I lose my train of thought is that's a common question is people ask, well, I think most of the community thinks that when you're not responding to calls for service, what are you doing? You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And that's what we're doing is being proactive, traffic stops like Corey's talking about, talking to people, just, we get officers can do consensual contacts with people. You see somebody standing on the corner. Hey, how you doing? Go up to them, have casual conversation. Proactivity was something that was pushed in our department that I worked for, because you're not going. Every department, every community is different. Some officers can get to their job and have 50 calls backed up already before they even hit the street. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Other departments have a situation where they may not have any calls immediately when they hit the street, so they're expected to go out there and be proactive and do traffic stuff. That's what I was going to say.
So now let's get to the next letter under this C.A.L.M acronym. Answer questions. Answer questions. So we assume I'm already pulled over. I'm complying. The next letter should be automatically flowing, or activity or action should just be automatic if I'm already complying, and that is answer questions. Why is that important? What makes this so significant as well?
Well, since we're sticking with traffic stops, so when we make that approach to your vehicle, we identify ourselves. The officer should be identify themselves. For me, I would simply just say, "Hey, good afternoon, morning, or evening. My name is Trooper Taylor. I'm with Virginia State Police. The reason why I'm stopping you today is for speeding 75 and 60." And then I will ask them, "Is there a reason why you're traveling so fast today?" And I'm just trying to gauge a response, see what you're going to say to me, because also in that, if you're telling me something, again, because we are human.
Yeah.
If you're telling me something that, may hit me in the heart, I just got called for me to rush home or go to the hospital because somebody's in there and they're getting ready to pull the plug or whatever the case may be. That may register to me because I am a parent. I have had loved ones in the hospital that, we had to get to. And I may just say at that point, I say, okay, well, sit tight. I'll be right back with you. Run and make sure there's no warrants or anything like that. And you got a good driving record. I may come back and say, okay, hey, have a nice day. Slow down. And I wish you and your family well. So
what about escorting? I've heard people say, or maybe just heard stories, have police actually escorted a driver to an emergency that they may be,
I did.
Okay.
It was emergency call on the interstate. The lady, she had a special needs child.
Okay.
And they dislocated their knee really bad, and she didn't want to get the child out of the car to get into the ambulance, and she didn't want me to call the ambulance. So I had to make a decision. I was like, okay, well, this is what I want you to do. You put your hazards on, and you're gonna stay right with me. Right now, we didn't speed or anything like that, but with my lights and sirens going, her behind me enabled everybody to get out of the way so we could get to the hospital.
That's good.
But quite naturally, that never made the news or anything like that.
Of course not. Of course not.
But there are officers out there that will go beyond the call of duty to assist the citizen, whatever their need may be. But back to your point of the answer questions, that's the primary reason, because on traffic stop or if it's something else that's going on, we may be probing and asking questions and find out what's going on. We might smell some marijuana in the car. Well, now those laws have changed, but previously, we may ask, hey, what's this? What's that? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? The whole who, what, where, when, and why. To kind of gauge what the story is going to be. Are you going to lie to me? Because when you start lying and what the evidence I may have at hand doesn't match up, I'm going to dig more. So, yeah.
So this Robin's Nest said this: I got pulled over by a state trooper when I was in college, going 80 in the 50. Ain't that reckless driving?
That is reckless driving.
Ain't that reckless driving? You got mercy, Robbins.
Depending on what city she's from here in Virginia or county she's from here in Virginia, she going to jail.
Listen, I was in Virginia. I was stationed in Virginia, and I know Virginia State Police. That was one state, man, I was glad to get up out of, because I was like, man, y'all, I ain't gonna lie. I like, y'all don't really have nothing else to do. Y'all ain't got nothing else to do but to be pulling folk over because speeding in my dumb mind, right? So
hey, we hope that's all they got to do, right?
I know, huh? I'm like 80 in a 55.
Yeah,
man. So okay, so answering questions. People will say this because I know y'all have heard it. I don't have to answer that.
Okay.
All you doing is making the matter worse, right? I mean,
you gotta look at what I mean, sometimes people get so focused on my rights,
Right.
and I don't have to do that. And it's really not about that. It's about getting the contact over with, giving the officer what he or she needs to figure out whatever they need to figure out and move on. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Give me if you get a call, like I'm gonna give you a suspicious circumstance call.
Mm-hmm.
I've had these kinds of calls, hundreds of these kinds of calls, where it's somebody reports a suspicious vehicle in the area. It might be 1, 2 o'clock in the morning or something, and it's a commercial area where obviously all the businesses are closed. And you come up and you see a suspicious vehicle parked in the parking lot of a closed business.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon for business to get burglarized, obviously, both in the daytime and in the night, actually. Okay.
Wow.
A stop like that. You do a traffic stop, say the vehicle decides to pull off on you, and you do a traffic stop on that vehicle.
Right.
Okay. That's called an investigative stop. You don't have to necessarily have a violation in that situation, because you notice this vehicle as suspicious in that police officer's mind, based on A, B, C, and D. You see what I'm saying? So you stop that person, and your purpose for stopping them is to investigate why they're there. That's it. You want to investigate why they're there. You want to make sure they're not there to break into the place. That's all you're doing. But we said a lot on this show about does someone have warrants? Right, that's a common thing that officers are going to run people for. Is for warrants, because most of 90% of the smaller warrants that people have, you'll never get those people on warrants without traffic stops. So let's be real. No other reason, unless you just happen to come across them doing something else. You see what I'm saying? But traffic stops are one of the big reasons to get those. But anyway, you answer the questions that the officer is asking you, because he's trying to establish that, number one, you got every right to be here. Right, there might be a perfectly reasonable explanation that you're there. Well, we want to be able to establish that, and if it's not, then it's our job to figure that out. Why are you here when you're not supposed to be here?
So can you break it down when you say why are you here? I mean, because that in the mind of a person that's listen what you just said, that sounds like you're infringing upon my freedom to move about in the country freely.
That's a good question. It's all about how that officer uses his words. For me, for example, when I come up on a suspicious vehicle in that particular kind of scenario I'm talking about, the first thing I'm saying is, listen, I'm stopping you because we've had burglaries in this area, or it's common for business to be burglarized. All these businesses are closed. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. It's dark. I see you parked in this parking lot. This is why I'm stopping you. So I have no problem explaining to that driver that I feel that they are suspicious and this is why. Now, you don't always get the response that you hope. Every officer hopes to get the response of, okay, officer, I understand where you're coming from. Here's my ID. What else you need, let me know so that I can get out of here. I can go about our business and that's it. That's what the officer wants. But keep in mind, it is that officer's job to investigate the scenario, the situation. We need to ask you questions so that we can establish that you were supposed to be there. That's all. That's all that is. So what you don't want to do is when you become evasive, when you don't want to answer questions. Now, how are we supposed to be able to determine if it's reasonable for you to be there? You're already on the property because you're in the parking lot of this closed business. So right out the gate, you trespassing unless you telling me something different.
Wow.
So people don't realize that right out the gate, I stopped you because of suspicious activity. An officer has a right to stop someone if they think they are going to commit a crime, if they are committing a crime, or if they think they just committed a crime. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when they throw that whole, you have to have a violation to get pulled over. That's not necessarily true. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
But it's all about moving on. Answer those questions so that we can establish you good. That's all. That's all it is.
Exactly. Now, of course, Scripture talks about that as well, about answering questions. Lord, he got another Bible verse. Yep, I sure do. We give you law and the law of God. Okay.
There you go.
Proverbs chapter 15, verse 1 and 2, the Bible says, a soft answer turns away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger.
Anger, yeah.
Verse 2 says, the tongue of the wise makes knowledge acceptable, but the mouth of fools spouts or spews folly. Man, what you stopping me for? What you stopping me for? Why you stopping me? I mean, what was it because I'm black? Dude, I'm black too. What's the problem? I mean, I'm stopping you because of whatever. So also the Bible says that we are to do unto others as we would have them do unto us. So now we're men on this live and we're fathers. When we ask our children a question, we want an answer, wouldn't we?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So isn't it funny? Isn't it rather ironic and hypocritically ironic, brothers, that we don't want to submit to authority in answering people's questions, but we better get an answer when we ask somebody a question, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do you respond to authority? Is going to either change the game.
That's right.
I put it this way. I mean, I'm not even a cop, but I know that attitude is everything.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, you say good morning, trooper, good morning, officer. How are you doing today? I'm doing great. The reason why I stopped you today was whatever. And I made us take the L. You know what, you officer, you're absolutely right. I wasn't paying attention. You're absolutely right. I wasn't thinking. I totally understand. You don't know how that could even determine or deter. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, that means a lot to a trooper or to an officer on a traffic stop. I knew for me it does. Now I just speak for me because the type of person I was when I wore the uniform. Yeah. You know, when you were up and up with me, you kept it 100 with me. I mean, like I said, that would definitely determine how the traffic stop is going to go. Now, sometimes, you may get the ticket, and then I would tell you, hey, show up to court. We'll take care of it in court. And you come to court, and I'll talk to the judge and possibly get it dismissed for you.
Y'all can do
just
that?
Because, let me tell you something.
Wow.
Troopers, if you are a good trooper, you carry a lot of weight in the courtroom. And because real quick, and I'll get us back on subject here. When you go in that courtroom, when you get in that courtroom, the judge is gonna let you tell your side, and then he's gonna say, okay, let me hear from the trooper now. And then once we tell him what happened, this, that, and the third, whatever, he's gonna ask. He say, trooper, were they polite and cooperative with you? I said, no, Your Honor, they weren't. And I'll tell him exactly what they did because I'm gonna make note of everything that went on. I'll rewind my video and everything, and make sure I got all my I's dotted and T's crossed. Wow. And then once you do that and you tell them what they did wrong, for example, one guy called me every name in the book but trooper, and the name my mama gave me. All right, and I wrote it down verbatim. Read it back to the judge. Judge look at, all right, I don't want to hear no more. Guilty. I had a friend of mine, his son got a reckless driving speeding ticket. I was able to help him out in court. Only because the reputation you have in that court. Right.
Yeah.
As an officer. All right. Yeah. So, you answering and you answering these questions and telling us the truth, it's going to weigh heavy on the outcome of that. No matter if you got the ticket now, hey,
right.
Keep doing, tell the truth. Bottom line, just tell the truth.
Yeah, because they already got the information. I mean, you already got the receipts. You already know. I mean,
yeah.
You can lie if you want. Just play the tape.
Yeah. I mean, you just tell the truth. I mean, and like I said, for me, and I'm pretty sure it's the same way for Mike. It to us it weighed a lot. I mean, it would definitely dictate the outcome of that stop.
Yeah. Wow. So again, answering questions, I'll say answering questions respectfully goes a long way, right? Ecclesiastes 3:7, the B clause says there's a time to speak. So when a police officer is asking you a question, now's your time to speak. It's your time to answer questions. Right. It ain't your time to come up, I'm going to serve my Fifth Amendment, ma'am, sir. That ain't gonna work. I mean, again, we're talking about how to be calm. It is not just the word itself, but like you said, the acronym and the letters that are being broken down behind it. Because this is very helpful. I'm telling y'all now, this is very helpful. And I know for a fact that once this video is over, I'm going to get some comments. I'm going to get some people that's going to say, man, I didn't think of it like this. Man, I didn't see it like this. It makes sense because far too many people are being told in the media and even at home, unfortunately, you get rights. Well, nobody's saying you don't have rights, but you don't have rights to resist authority on the street. You're going to lose. You are going to lose. And so why lose your freedom and possibly your life? Or what if you do run into that bad cop that may have had a bad day? Or like I think I mentioned in another video, you don't know what that police officer may have came from to your car.
That's right. That's right.
You see what I'm saying? So it's like, and I'm understanding even more that we don't think that police are people. Yeah, you're professional, but you are people who are in a profession. That's a different thing.
Totally different.
People, but you are people in a profession. You're there to do a job. And so for me, like I'm a truck driver. I'm a professional. I consider my license. I'm a professional truck driver. So there's certain things that they expect from me not to do wrong. But it does not mean that it's not going to happen, though. It just means that the responsibility is greater. The consequences are going to be greater because of the level of profession that I have. And so I think a lot of times, man, we don't give police officers the consideration that we would want ourselves when we do things. And so the media expects for you all to be perfect and then to want a pound of flesh when you're not. And I understand, I do understand that there are standards. I got that. And I don't think none of us are making excuses for the bad police or the bad, ones out there. And I appreciate it because y'all spoke out against it yourself. But it still helps to respond in a way that's respectful, especially when you would want to be treated as well that same way. So if a cop walks up to you, what are your black so-and-so doing? You've been like, hey, man. But if they're not responding to you that way, why would you respond to them that way? It's the golden rule: doing unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's Matthew 7:12. That's Luke 6:31. So let's go to the next layer. I know we got a lot, and we've been going through a lot. But this is still important, guys. I've been enjoying it. I have.
All right.
All right.
What is the L for?
The L. Listen to commands. Just listen to what's going on. And if you have questions, feel free to. There's a time to be able to ask those questions. Just understand that officers are not going to get into an argument with you on the side of the road. You see what I'm saying? They're going to do what they're going to do, regardless of if I'm going to give you a ticket, I'm going to give you a ticket. You see what I'm saying? If I'm going to give you a warning, now that warning could turn into a ticket, depends on how that goes, right? Yep. But I plan on giving you a warning, right? Listen to any commands that the officers give you. It kind of goes back to that first one too, complying. But listen to any commands that the officer's giving you. Listen to any instructions that officer might have for you, whether he's going to give you a ticket or not. If that officer needs you to do something specific, like let me see your registration, insurance, and license. I'm gonna give you a little tip. When I ask you for in California, they have to. It's common for officers to ask you for your registration, your license, and your insurance. Obviously, to prove that you got current insurance. If you lose track of what I just asked you to give, if I'm doing a DUI investigation or I suspect I might be driving under the influence of alcohol, that's one of the first things I'm going to mention in my report narrative, that he only gave me his license when I asked for his license, insurance, and registration. You see what I'm saying? So listen to what the officer is asking you, or any instructions he or she is giving you. That's important.
So it's kind of hard to listen while you're trying to talk, though, ain't it?
It is.
It is.
So it's kind of hard to listen while you're trying to defend your case at the same time, right?
That's right.
So I mean, again, scripture, James 1:19, my brethren, let everyone be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger. Quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger. So now you have an attitude because you got pulled over. You're already going to be trying to get smart and get snarky with the officer. That's not going to help. Then you're not willing to listen because you just basically wanted you only interested in being heard instead of hearing what is being asked of you or required of you. The Proverbs 18:13 says, he who gives an answer before he hears, it is a folly and a shame to him. So now you pull me over. I already know why you stopped me. I already know why you stopped me. You don't even know why he stopped you. How do you know why he stopped you unless he told? And he could have been stopping you for something that had nothing to do with what
totally
you
different.
thought.
That's right.
Yeah,
was, right?
That's right. That's right.
That's right.
I know my light is out. I know my light is out. I didn't know you. Oh, it is? Oh, okay.
Thank you for telling me.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Well, let me address that too. Yeah, okay. Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts about that, Jim? I mean, it just, when I hear this information, guys, it's like, man, if this could be shared on CNN, if this could be shared on MSNBC, if this could be shared on the mainstream media, that the cops aren't the problem. It's the lack of compliance. It's the lack of being calm. It's the lack of following orders. It's the lack of listening. Because again, the Bible says you hear a man who is hasty in his own words. You hear a man who is hasty with his words. That's in Proverbs 29:20, I believe. It said there's more hope for a fool than for this person. You just quick to talk. You just quick to, and you're not listening. And then now that does it frustrates the officer.
With the whole thing with C.A.L.M, it's we want to put this information out to give to the citizens to help them in this, because yes, you go through driver's education. Yes, you really learning trial by error. You're hearing, what other people have done.
That's right. That's right.
In their lives during their traffic stops,
that's
their
right.
experiences.
Yeah.
And you can't let somebody else's experiences dictate your outcome.
Come on,
right?
Man.
Because it happens over here to A doesn't mean it's going to happen to, person B.
Right.
I say, in one of our vehicles, in one of our videos, we were talking about, it's a two-way street, right? Police officer has a responsibility.
Right.
We know they have a greater responsibility. We put a lot on our police officers and expect them to handle themselves in a very professional manner. Well, citizens, you know what? We have a responsibility too.
That's right.
Right. That when we come in contact with an authoritarian figure, like you just laid out in Romans 13, then you need to comply, answer the questions, listen, and move on. Right. That is your responsibility as a citizen, is to stay calm and remember those four key elements right there.
That's right.
To comply.
That's right.
Answer the question. If you don't want that, okay. If the officer is a butthole, then you're going to have his or her information on that ticket. Right. Then you take the next step and you go to their supervisor.
That's right.
And you take it up with them. All right. That's a proper way to do it. Like we said earlier, doing these things on the side of the road that's not how it's going to play out, because it's not going to end well with somebody. And it's not going to end well if it's out there with me. So
it's important for us to get the point out that you don't know what kind of officer you're going to come across. So this information, and I'm saying that if it's a good officer or if it's a bad officer or anywhere on the spectrum in the middle, right? These points, if you follow these points, you're going to get home safe. This is going to be, whether you get a ticket or you get arrested, even if you're going to jail, okay, but it's not going to be anything more than that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think the community sometimes have to realize what they want or what they expect from their police department, number one, and number two, understand what that is.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
you're gonna get pulled over. I mean, everybody's got pulled over at least 5 times in their life. I'm going to imagine, or more or less.
Well,
right?
speak for yourself, there, Mike.
Me personally, I've probably been pulled over about in my life, adulthood life, probably about 6 times. I don't know, right? For whatever reason, but that officer is going to respond how you give it, right? You, as a citizen, when you get pulled over, your mindset should be on, okay, let me do whatever I need to do for this officer to do what he's going to do and send me on my way.
Right.
That should be your mindset. It shouldn't be, unfortunately, you know, for instance, I'm gonna give you a scenario like if you had somebody, there were calls that I would get, and it would be dealing with teenagers or something like that, where they have some weed or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, back when weed was illegal. It's still illegal for juveniles, obviously, but back when you get those kind of calls and you call a parent and the parent said, I'm getting off the subject a little here, but follow me.
Sure.
The first response of the parent is, well, what right, officer, did you have to search my kid? Right? Not that my kid was in possession of something illegal. It was what right did the officer have to stop my kid, to search my kid? That was all the parent was concerned about. You know, and that's the wrong mind. If it were my kids, my first question would be, you could search my kid all day.
Right.
You would let me know what you find too, officer. That's the attitude I would have.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because I know that this officer ain't just trying to hurt somebody or something. He's doing he or she is doing the job, right?
Right.
So I'm more concerned about what you found on my kid, not whether or not you were supposed to search my kid. You see what I'm saying? And so that's the mindset when people get stopped pulled over by police. Their mindset should kind of be the same way of, I just want to make sure I give this officer whatever he or she needs to show that I'm on the up and up. Give me, if you felt I did this wrong, officer, I'm gonna sign my ticket and move on. Number one, you got to sign the ticket. If you don't sign the ticket, we have to take you to jail. A lot of people don't realize that.
You need to say it again. You may say that. You might want to say that one more time, Mike, and say it real close to the camera so people understand what you just said.
You cannot refuse to sign a traffic ticket.
Sir.
But keep in mind, by signing, this is what we tell them. This is what I used to tell them all the time. By signing that ticket, it is not an admission of guilt. It is only a promise to take care of the ticket. That's all. You're gonna get some stuff in the mail, whether you're gonna go to court and fight it or not. Whatever you're gonna do.
Why can't they not sign the ticket? Because, and why are you gonna take me to jail because I just refuse to sign a piece of paper?
Right. The reason why you got to sign the ticket, because that is our way of saying you acknowledge receipt of this ticket, and when you get that court summons, you're gonna come to court. If you don't sign that ticket, then what you are telling us is that number one, I don't agree with where you stopped me, which is beside the point. And number two, I'm not gonna show up to court when you tell me I have to. Okay, well, if you ain't gonna show up to court when I tell you have to, then I'm gonna have to take you to jail, and you're gonna show up to court that way.
There you go.
So you're gonna show up.
Either way, you show up to court.
You're gonna show up to court. There you go. There you go.
Voluntarily or involuntarily?
Involuntarily, right? That's right. So you have to sign a ticket. And real quick, I don't mean to open up another can of worms here with you.
Say it, bro. Say it.
But, you know, a lot of people don't realize that they think when an officer orders them out of the vehicle, and oftentimes you say, I don't want to get out of the vehicle. I'm not getting out of the vehicle, officer. Yes, you have to get out of the vehicle. In the state of California, when an officer orders you out of it, now, if an officer, here's the difference. If an officer asks you to get out of the vehicle, you have a right to say, no, I prefer not to, officers. You know, I prefer to stay in the vehicle.
Okay.
That's different.
Okay.
But if an officer orders you, I need you to get out of the vehicle, ma'am or sir, step out of the vehicle. You see what I'm saying? There's no question there.
Gotcha.
Then you have to get out of it. There's case law that talks about that. The case law is Pennsylvania versus Mims, if you want to look it up. But case law says you have to get out of the vehicle. And passengers are stopped just like the driver. Okay. The only difference is passengers If it's strictly for a traffic violation, passengers are not required to give you identification. Required to give you identification. Now, if you ain't up to no good, you ain't got nothing to hide. Hey, I just want to do whatever I want to do to get on down the road. Give me your identification. Ain't nothing wrong with that if they ask for it. Okay. But passengers don't have to give you the officer identification. However, passengers still have to do all the other instructions that the officer is saying. If the officer wants the passengers to step out of the vehicle, they have to step out of the vehicle. If the officer wants the passengers to stay in the vehicle, the passengers have to stay in the vehicle. Because when you on a traffic stop, everybody in that traffic stop is detained by that officer.
I want to read this case. I think this is Arizona versus Johnson. It says, quote, occupants may be detained at the scene pending completion of the stop. We hold that in a traffic stop setting, it is lawful for police to detain an automobile and its occupants pending injury into a vehicular violation. The temporary seizure of driver and passengers continues and remains reasonable for the duration of the stop. Occupants may be ordered to sit on the curb, whether permitting an absent physical disability. We conclude that the officers in this case, after lawfully stopping the Cadillac, were justified in ordering defendants back into the car, and then ordering all passengers to get out of the car and sit on the curb for officer safety reasons. People versus Babanco, and that's case law 1 and 12, 2007.
And real quick, you know, a lot of citizens would ask, well, why did the officers have me sit on the curb? You know, and we talk about this, Corey, in one of our other shows before too. There's a tactical reason for that. I mean, well, number one, I might want you out of the vehicle because, say, when I walk up on the vehicle and I visibly see something, some kind of contraband or something illegal in the car, right? Well, I want everybody out of the vehicle so anybody mess around with that. You see what I'm saying? And I don't know who that contraband, if you will, belongs to.
Right.
Okay. So then the investigation begins. I'm going to talk to everybody in the vehicle. Whose is this? Did you know this was there? I'm going to talk to you separately so that you are not influenced by your partner who is sitting next to you. You're not influenced by what they're saying, or maybe you don't want to tell me who it is in front of everybody else. You see what I'm saying? So there's plenty of tactical and investigative reasons why an officer would, number one, have everybody step out of the vehicle, or have you sit on the curb. Sitting on the curb takes a physical advantage away from the person I'm dealing with because they can't easily just jump up and run away. Right. Now, you know, if somebody really wanted to jump up and run away, you know, they could do that, but they have to get up from the curb first to do that. So it gives me a little heads up. It's a matter of control of the situation. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And making sure everybody's straight. That's all.
What about handcuffs? Are you, I want to authorize, but is it lawful, or is it a part of safety if you had them sitting on the curb and handcuffed, or would that have to be a reason?
Okay. Yeah, that's part of the detention phase. Like when you're going to detain somebody for investigation purposes. It's our policy, state police policy, that we would have to put you in handcuffs for further investigation. So, I mean, it's obviously we wouldn't have you sit down on the curb, on the interstate, but more likely I will put you in the front seat with me if I were going to detain you, or I'll have you sit on we had a push bar on the front of our vehicles. I have you sit on the push bar until I was ready for you or whatever. But any case, if you're going to be detained, then yeah, you'd be handcuffed for that purpose, because until you figure out what's going on, if you're not going to make the arrest. Now, there's a difference between being detained and arrest.
That's what I wanted to know. Yeah, that's what I wanted you to break down. What's the difference between being detained and being arrested?
So detained, you're just being detained for whatever reason, more like it's for investigative purposes. You haven't made an arrest yet because you haven't finished figuring out, one, if this is the person you're looking for. You're finding more evidence. You're trying to continue on with your probable cause that you may have on the side of the road, like Mike just said, to build your case. So at this moment, you're just detained. I give you a quick example for warrants. I get a notification that I have a search warrant. This individual has a search warrant. Well, I'm going to detain them until I get confirmation. I got to get confirmation, right, to make sure that warrant is a still active warrant, right? Okay. So that means our dispatch is going to call that precinct who took out that warrant to make sure it's still active, because a lot of times you have that situation where they might have pulled the search warrant, or that search warrant, but the warrant for their arrest, but never took it out of the system, right? And so it's still active within the system. So we had to get that verification. So you're going to detain them. You'll put them in handcuffs until you get that confirmation. Once you get that confirmation, then you go ahead and tell them, hey, now you're going to be under arrest for whatever the case may be. If you have to, Mirandarize them, you Mirandarize them and take them on to lockup. But you must stay there until you get that notification that this is a valid warrant.
How long does that verification takes? What if it's a glitch? What if the person had that situation satisfied and taken care of, but the system has not updated it? They still go down?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you still have to take them to jail and let it play itself out in court.
Okay.
To make sure.
And that's happened to me before, where you've had somebody with a warrant and it shows, like you were saying, Corey, it's still in the system. And they'll tell me a lot. They'll say, well, my lawyer took care of that last week or whatever. But if it's then your lawyer didn't make sure it was out of the system, it wasn't removed from the system, if that's the case. Well, we can't assume that it was taken care of because you said so.
Right.
We still have to go off of what the system says.
Right.
Because that's the last final act that was going on. Gotcha. So if it's in there, that's a warrant is basically a judge telling us that I want you to bring this person to jail because I need to see them right away. Now, in California, they also have site releasable warrants. So you might have a warrant where a judge says, I want to see him, but if you stop him, you can write him a ticket and give him another court date to go to court for.
Okay.
That's another type of warrant.
Okay.
But handcuffing is just a form of physical control, and all physical control is for the safety of that person and the officer. That's all. A handcuff, because you are handcuffed, does not mean you were arrested. Just like Corey was saying, that's completely different things. Handcuffs is not an indication that, or a confirmation, I should say, that you are arrested. Okay, it just means you're detained right now. I don't want you to take off on me. I could be a lone officer by myself on the side of the road dealing with you and 3 other people in the car.
Right.
And a record comes and say, you got a warrant. Well, I don't want to be the only officer there. Everybody unhandcuffed can run around. Right. If they're trying to hurt me or get away, then I got to take some action to make sure that I got some control of the situation.
Right.
Don't be offended because the officer handcuffed you. It's just safety, and it's just a detention until I figure this out and make sure A, B, C, and D is squared away. That's all.
Good. All right. That's so last but not least, M for move on.
Move on.
Move on.
Yeah. Move on. Hey, like I said, you get that. If it's a ticket because of the traffic violation or whatever the case may be, you drive on. If you broke the law and you have outstanding warrant, whatever, you humble yourself. You get arrested and you go deal with that issue in court. And that's what moving on is all about. Because when you're moving on, guess what? You're alive. You made it through. Right? The officer is alive. He or she has made it through.
Right.
And that's the end goal for both parties, no matter what the situation was that brought you two together. You get to move on.
Right.
That's right.
And that's what we want. We want you to move on. I mean, I'm tired of seeing all this. A lot of these shootings and things that have happened could have been prevented if these individuals would have complied, answer the questions, listen, and they would have got to move on. But instead, they've moved on to another place.
Yeah. And so a lot of people don't realize, and maybe it's kind of shocking to some people, that y'all are black, and y'all are black former law enforcement officers, and you are telling people something that is going counter narrative to what society is telling them, which is not to comply. Matter of fact, you don't even hear the word compliance, Corey and Mike, on the news when a black person is shot by the police. You don't hear that word is not even mentioned. It's like it's taboo to say, why didn't Michael Brown comply? Why didn't Eric Garner comply? Why didn't George Floyd comply? Why didn't he comply? We can argue whether or not the death was justified. That ain't the point. The issue is the first action causes the reaction of everything else. We don't want to talk about that. What we want to talk about is, the police is after us. The police is this, the police is that. No, the police is not after anybody if you're not doing anything wrong. And like you said, following these 4 basic principles in that one word can change the game for every single person. Now, it does not mean you're not going to have your bad cops. We're not talking about that. We already discussed that. We know that. But to act as though compliance doesn't determine the outcome is a lie, because it does. So now you have these situations that are going on, like you said, because I'm getting tired of it too, man. But the bottom line is, why don't you comply? Matter of fact, we saw in the George Floyd video, right? Outside of Chauvin having his knee on his neck, we got that. But I heard the bystander, the older man, saying, "Man, just get in the car. You can't win." He said that. He told George Floyd several times, "Man, just get in the car. Just get in the car. You can't win. You're not going to win." Why was that not compliance? Why was that not?
That's interesting that you say that. I do see, and I too see a pattern of that in not just the George Floyd incident, but all of them.
Yeah,
the compliance aspect of that is overlooked. Now, like since we talked about George Floyd real quick, the knee on the neck, obviously, like you said,
right?
That I've never been trained to put my knee on the neck for 9 minutes of a suspect. We have been trained to put knees between the shoulder blades. That's a common handcuffing technique of a high risk person, obviously, right? We've been trained to put knees other places and tactically other places, but the neck has always been a sensitive thing. Now, whatever, in my opinion, with that, if an officer does something like that, he puts a knee on the neck, and if he gets convicted of whatever he got convicted of,
it is what it is. Yeah,
I'm not arguing that. Okay,
right.
But the other side of that coin is, for instance, the one that just happened where the woman used the gun.
Micaiah. Oh no, you're talking about Dante Wright. Dante Wright. Yeah. Kim
Potter. Should she have made that mistake? No, absolutely not. For someone who's been on the force for 20-something years, we do so much training on taser versus gun that should not have been made. However, like I said, it's always another side of the coin. Right. All that reaction could have been prevented if he had just complied. And
Mike, y'all are saying some foreign stuff, bro. You saying some foreign stuff, bro. You saying some foreign stuff.
He broke away.
You know what? I'll say this
to these young dudes, real quick, Corey. If there's something I want to get to these young guys who might have warrants and they end up with the police, just go on and take that warrant, go on and be arrested, go on to court and handle your business. You will only make a situation worse when you try to break away from the hold of an officer who's getting ready. Once I say you under arrest, you under arrest. There ain't gonna be nothing. I'm not gonna turn around and all of a sudden reverse that and say, you know what? Never mind. That ain't gonna happen. That ain't gonna happen. It's not natural. It's not what an officer is supposed to do. If that officer has made up his or her mind that they are going to arrest you, you're gonna get arrested. Period.
So with the Dante, right? Like when I first saw the video, I said, "Oh, okay, cool. He's complying." He was being arrested by a black police officer, I believe. And once he bucked, I was like, "All right, well, you just everything. The outcome now is going to be based
Downhill.
on your actions, what you just did."
Right.
And
So you comply,
his actions now had determined that he was going to die. And
Wow.
he died, but because of but see, this is what C.A.L.M is about right here, right? What did I say earlier? If you do these things, you take away the power from the officer having to do something stupid, and by his actions, it caused her to draw her gun versus the taser.
Yeah.
And shot him.
Yeah.
So it was that domino effect. His actions caused her to make a wrong decision, in turn, then made him lose his life.
Yeah.
It was that domino effect. And
But
so
it
when
starts with compliance, like you said, but it starts
right,
with compliance. But y'all are
he
saying
would've
foreign stuff,
complied,
though, bro. Y'all are saying foreign stuff. It's like it's Greek to people who don't know it. Like, what do you mean? I mean, he, and I told you I'm gonna play them videos in a minute, because what you hear in them videos that I got queued up is gonna piss y'all off, because the attitude is they didn't have to do blank. The officer didn't have to do this. Why they didn't have to? They should have just done this. They should have just done that. But Pookie and them should have done C, which is comply. Because again, it is not like the police look. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, guys. It's not like the police are looking for blood, because doesn't every round that is discharged from that firearm have to be accounted for? Don't you have to fill out reports? Isn't your day, that 10-hour day, now may have turned into a 12 or 14-hour one because of the shooting you were involved in?
It's gonna be longer than that.
Okay, so I mean, because so your day pretty much is shot. No pun intended.
No officer wants. I'm gonna tell you right now, no officer wants to get into a shooting. You'd be a fool. You'd be a crazy fool as an officer to want to get into a shooting. And if you want to get into a shooting, you got no business being a police officer. Okay,
correct.
We can all agree on that. Okay, but it's such a, as I said, I've never been into a shooting myself, but there have been people in our department that have been in shootings. You see what I'm saying? And it is such a stressful process. Just the fact that you took someone's life, that alone, if you're a human being, that alone is going to weigh on you, no matter what.
Oh yeah.
You see what I'm saying? No one wants that. No one wants to feel that. You see what I'm saying? Any rational human being doesn't want to feel that. Okay, so the comply part is probably the most important aspect. That's in that whole.
It's kind of like the nucleus of the whole. It's like the hub of the whole wheel.
First word.
Once that goes out the window, you've opened up the options for anything to happen. You open up the options for the officer to make a mistake and draw her gun and versus her taser. You see what I'm saying?
And I'm gonna tell you too. Another reason why nobody wants to get into a gunfight, because you got to look at what that also does to your family. And also has to look at what their family is going to go through. Not only the officer, but it's going to also take an emotional toll on that officer's family, right, and their kids. So yeah, nobody wants to engage in that. You know, I tell you, the last couple of times I had pulled my weapon before I left the department. The whole time while this whole thing's going down, I'm saying in my head, Lord, please don't let me shoot. 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 I'm saying that in my head.
Wow.
Because I know the outcome of that when that round leaves that barrel of that gun. Right? You've got to be accountable for that round. If you take that you stop that threat and they die from that, then you got to be ready, stand by, ready to be articulating why you pull that trigger. right? And thank God we got body cam and stuff like that. But we can say that all for another episode. But
yeah,
I'm ready to get to that
video. So the move on aspect, basically, people have probably said, well, I'm pretty sure he ain't got no scripture for that. Ain't no scripture for moving on. Yeah, it is. There's one. Matter of fact, I got a few of them. But one, I'll give you one. 2 Samuel 3, and I use this move on in the context of being given permission to move on. Okay, because I can't leave until you grant me permission to leave.
True.
Am I okay making that statement? Okay.
Yes,
so once you stop me, I can only move on when you give me permission. Either I receive the ticket or the warning, or you arrest me, you going on your business, I'm going back to jail. But I do not have the authority. I don't have the authority or the right now to go on about my business until I have been, as we would say in the military, properly relieved.
Relieved. Right. There you go.
That's
right. So I don't have the right. You don't, ladies and gentlemen, you do not have the right to leave the scene until you have been granted permission to do so by a higher authority. So 2 Samuel chapter 3, verse 21, Abner, I believe, is getting permission from David. In verse 21, I'll just read it. And Abner said to David, let me arise and go. Notice, let me arise and go and gather all Israel to my Lord, the king, that they may make a covenant with you and that you may be king over all your soul desires. And notice verse 21 of B clause says, so David sent Abner away and he went in peace. Abner couldn't do anything until the king, David, granted him permission to do so. He was under authority. He was granted permission by authority to do something, but he could not do it until he was given permission to do so. Genesis chapter 50. Joseph is second in charge over Egypt. And even Joseph, when he was prime minister of Egypt, gets permission from Pharaoh to go bury his father. In Genesis 50, verse 4. And when the days of mourning for him were past, Joseph spoke to the household of Pharaoh, saying, if now I have found favor in your sight, please speak to Pharaoh, saying, my father made me swear, saying, behold, I am about to die in my grave, which I have dug for myself in the land of Canaan. There you shall bury me. Now, therefore, please let me go up and bury my father. Then I will return. Verse 6 says, and Pharaoh said, these are key words, y'all. You don't assume you're free to go until you're told you're free to go. Verse 6, and Pharaoh said, go up and bury your father just as he made you swear. So words are important, ladies and gentlemen. You don't assume you have the right to leave. You don't take it upon yourself that you have the right to leave. It is when that officer says, ma'am, sir, you're free to go. You better hear it out of their mouth into your two ear holes that you have been granted permission to leave the scene. Matthew 8:9, we see the centurion. The centurion tells Jesus, Lord, I too am a man under authority. The centurion says, I tell this person go, and he goes. I tell this person come, and they come. It's about authority. So you only move on when you have been granted permission and authority to do so. Did I cover them scriptures, bro? Did I get
it? You went beyond my expectations. Now I'm like, hey, you know what? We definitely have to escalate this now, man. I mean, the concept of calm and then putting biblical scriptures right along with it, man. That's powerful.
Praise God. Praise God.
That's powerful. And we need to get this word out to people because, like I said, and it's not just a black or white thing. This is a God's children's thing.
Come on,
right?
man.
And if we're going to sit here and say that we are God's children, then I don't care what color you are. You're God's children. Therefore, you're my spiritual brother and sister in Christ. because our souls, our spirits have no color. You ain't gonna be black, white, or whatever in heaven.
Facts.
Right?
Facts.
You're gonna be a spiritual figure of Christ-like. All right, so we need to put that aside here. We need to own up to our responsibility here on earth and be that I'm my brother's keeper, black and white.
Facts.
I'm my brother's keeper. And this is our way of doing. This is what we say in our little slogan, continue in our service, you know, giving back and teaching people about being calm.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Now I'm glad y'all are calm now. Because after these 2 videos I'm about to drop on y'all, I'm gonna see how calm you're gonna be after you hear it. So, ladies and gentlemen, there was an interview on the Breakfast Club. If you know who the Breakfast Club, the hosts are, Charlemagne, Angela Yee. Is she still there? I think she's still there. I hope she. I don't know if she's still mad at Charlemagne. Yeah. So, but Charlemagne, Angela Yee, and DJ Envy are the hosts of the Breakfast Club. And so last week and the week before, they were discussing and talking about police shootings and so forth. So what I want to do, ladies and gentlemen, I want to share 2 particular videos. They're not too long, but I want to get my brother's thoughts and their response to what they're about to hear. So let me just share the screen here, and this is going to be the first one we're going to play. We're going to play the video with Umar Johnson. Umar Johnson speaks on American racism, Joe Biden's agenda, interracial relations. But in particular, we're going to talk about, he's going to talk about in this video, blacks being killed by police, and about the Ma'Khia Bryant shooting. So let me go ahead and play it here. And Jim, I want to get your thoughts about it, because this is going to be rather interesting, to say the least. Umar is in a class by himself when it comes to racism. So I have it here on the screen. You guys can see it?
I can see it.
All right. Yes, so let's get it in. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Dr. Umar Johnson.
Look at the situation with the sister who got shot 5 times.
Now let's talk about that. Ma'Khia Bryant.
Ma'Khia Bryant. Yeah. They're claiming she's the one who called the police. They're claiming that the police had a right to shoot her. Even coons, Negroes are running around saying, well, she had a knife. So that justifies her being killed? Because I work in school, Charlemagne. I have seen lunchroom aides, this with no police training, no bulletproof vest, no nightproof vest, no gun in the pocket. I have seen elderly black women and elderly black men take knives and other weapons out of the hands of students during lunchroom riots. So you mean to tell me that a 60, 70-year-old man could disarm a teenager in a lunchroom, but a trained armed police with a bulletproof vest can't get a knife out of the hand of a 16-year-old, but yet and still you have white males who are conducting mass murders all across this country. Almost every other week, we're getting a mass murder in America, and almost every one of these fully armed, fully violent, murderous white men were apprehended by the police without being shot and without losing their life. So explain to me how a white man with an AK-47 can be taken without a police officer firing a bullet after he done murdered 6, 7, 8 people, but a 16-year-old girl with a butter knife cannot be apprehended without a bullet being shot. That is nonsense. They killed her because they knew they would get away with it.
And he's a doctor.
I think he has a PhD in idiocy, bro.
Well, you know,
let me start this one off, Mark, and I'll let you finish it up.
Okay.
First of all, it doesn't matter if she called the police or not. When she came out that house with that knife, she then became the aggressor. So whatever she had going for in the beginning went out the window. And then when she first attacked that first young lady, knocked her to the ground, tried to stab her. He failed to mention in there that a crime was in progress here. The cop just didn't roll up and just got out the car and just started just popping off, just gun you down. Right. He didn't do that. Obviously, I don't think he watched the video. But if he would go back and watch the video, he would see that the cop had seconds to make a response or that girl was going to die. Now, he had between 15 and 20 feet between him and the girl in the pink. And the Makai was in motion to stab, and she uttered the words that I'm going to stab you, B. So there was no time to deploy taser because we all know tasers, and if he's a doctor and he studied others, he would know that tasers are not 100% effective. So the taser wasn't going to work. So his next
firearm isn't 100% effective in some cases.
Either.
So,
but he had to make a decision. So his next use of force, now he's not going to de-escalate. He's got to escalate the force now because he's got to save this girl's life. So his next use of force is, or should have been in the beginning, like it was the gun. You ain't gonna use no pepper spray. What is that gonna do? You're gonna spray the back of her head. Think about it. By the time he got to her, if he was going to rush her, according to Mr. Johnson here, if he was going to rush her, now he's got to worry about himself getting hurt and possibly still this young lady in pink getting killed. Now, if he's hurt, he kills the girl in pink. She's still good to go. She could have went after the other one. You would have had two more, another dead girl that she was initially going out for. So you would have had two dead bodies laying there and an injured officer. That's what would have happened if he would have rushed her. Mr.
And probably would have got blamed for that.
And would have got blamed for that. Well, why didn't he just shoot her? Now, they don't. We talked about this last week in our video, or this week's video, Shoot to Kill. All right, when deadly force is authorized. All right. We don't shoot to kill. We shoot to stop the threat. So stop saying he just rode up on kill. No, he stopped the threat. He saved that girl's life. Yep. Is what he did. All right. Stop making it about race because it had nothing to do with he saved a black girl. From another black girl that was trying to kill. There you go. From another black girl who was going to kill her. Now, what that black girl didn't care about that other black girl's life because she was trying to end it. So he did the right thing. If that was Mike's daughter and that happened here in Virginia and I rode up on it, you doggone well I would have shot that girl to save his daughter's life, or anybody on this channel. I would have done the same thing. And you hearing that from a black man. I would have done it. Because that's our number one job, to preserve life, not to take it, unless less deadly force takes that way. But I'm gonna stop the threat. If he'd have shot her once and she dropped, I'm pretty confident that he wouldn't have shot her anymore. All right. If it took two, there's no limit to you can. What if she didn't feel the first one because of her adrenaline? You shoot her again, she still doesn't feel it because of her adrenaline. Maybe my head took that fourth one to actually get her to stop, and it did. And because her regulate that, why we have people out here regulating how many times a person? Because I'm not done with the video, guys. I mean, the foolishness that just started. I mean, the foolishness had not even left the station yet on what they were talking about, because these people asked a question in the video. And oh, by the way, this is over 2 million views on YouTube on the Breakfast Club. Wow. These people have said that. So you have 2+ million people are listening to that foolishness of them saying, why was he not, or why did he have to shoot her? She had a butter knife. I mean, come on, man. You have this narrative being spun like that. That wasn't no butter knife.
No, that was a knife that looked like they could have easily shanked her, that other girl in the neck, which is what she was about to do. But I think this is Umar, right? I think Umar Johnson. Yes. Is I think he's speaking from a civilian standpoint, from a strong emotional.
You got some feedback in the background, Mike. Do I have some background? Yeah, I'm not sure if another device is on or speaker on.
No, let me make sure I got everything turned down or turned off. What about now?
Okay, go ahead. You
good? He's speaking from a very emotional standpoint, from someone who apparently doesn't have a lot of police training, which obviously most citizens don't. Most civilians don't have any police kind of training. This is a textbook scenario of a shooting situation. Textbook. This is a training video that we've had numerous times where you have domestic violence situations where the guy is on top of the wife in the bedroom getting ready to stab her, and you go in there, you got to shoot her.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Textbook.
Right.
So a gun does not, a knife does not equal a taser. A gun equals a taser. I'm sorry. A knife does not equal a taser. A knife equals a gun. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Officers are going to come up with the next highest level of force to stop that level. I'm not going to even pull my taser out when I see someone in the motion of getting ready to stab someone else. I'm going to pull out my gun. Any reasonable officer would have fired in that particular scenario. Okay, that's the first thing I'm gonna say. Then people mention, well, he didn't have to shoot her 5 or 6 times. When officers get into a shooting, I'm not counting bullets. Yeah, you have to account for you shooting, okay? But in the heat of the moment with your adrenaline pumping and you're about to see somebody get shanked basically with a knife, you're not sitting there shooting one shot, boom, pop, let's see what happens. Oh, that's not good enough. Pop, oh, let's see what happens. Okay, that's 2 shots. No, let me shoot another one here. You see, you don't have that amount of time to slow down and count your bullets. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You see a threat, you got adrenaline rushing, you got to take care of that threat in a half a second. Okay? You got that much time to react for your brain to process what's going on, for your brain to process this is what I need to do to stop that threat, and for your brain to actually carry out that process of stopping that threat. Okay? So he comes up. She clearly is getting ready to shoot. You can't get any more textbook than that. She's clearly in the motion of getting ready to stab this girl. Okay, that was a legitimate, the perfect scenario of when an officer needs to use their firearm and stop that threat.
Right.
Officers are not trained killers. I heard that before too. We are not trained killers. We are only trained to stop the threat. Now, when we using deadly force, well, obviously that's why they call it deadly force. So we do have some knowledge that, you might die from what I'm getting ready to do. Okay, sure. But my mindset is not like a trained assassin up in here. You see what I'm saying? You train to stop the threat and you pull that trigger as many times as you need to until that threat is gone.
And
I'd like to also clarify on one thing when we're talking about officer training real quick and deadly force. We're trained to shoot center mass, as you know, prior military. Yourself and Mike and I both prior military.
Right.
We're trained to shoot center mass. We're also taught that in law enforcement. Why? Because that's the bigger mass area, biggest target area. Like we talked in our video that we released the other day called "Shoot to Kill." We talk about why he shot her in the back versus why didn't he try to shoot the knife out of her hand or shoot her in the arm. Like you said a few minutes ago, Seiko, we have to account for those rounds. So say he goes and tries to shoot her in the arm, he misses. Well, what's his back? What was his backdrop? The girl in pink. He would have killed her, right? Or what if he missed both of them? Right. And the bullet goes through the car downrange and hit somebody. Hit somebody standing there. All right. So that's one reason why we shoot center mass. Second is we don't give warning shots. No police officer in the country is going to give you a warning shot because what's the other saying? What goes up has to come down. Right. You got to account for that round. That round comes down, hits a bystander in the head. Guess what? That person is dead.
So Juan Williams is wrong for that statement, saying
Juan Williams, he's an idiot and should not be. All these people who are talking, and this is what upsets me. Know nothing about wearing the shoes of a law enforcement officer. Have never been put in that situation where they have to make that decision in such a quick amount of time. But like we said in the video, and I think Mike said it best, they got the time to sit there and to rewind it, watch it in slow motion. Oh, he should have done that. She should have done this. But here's one thing I want to ask you, Seiko. How come nobody's talking about the so-called dead I've heard and read in several reports that was standing there? How come nobody's talking about that man kicking that woman down on the ground twice?
Because it don't fit the narrative, sir.
It don't fit the narrative. There you go.
But now if that was a white man kicking a black girl,
for sure.
Oh yeah, that you know, because that's, you see the comparison. But see, it's the color scheme don't mesh. But let me continue on, because how's y'all blood pressure? Your blood pressure good? Y'all
just real quick though. Umar mentioned about we standing there with bulletproof vests. Just so people understand, bulletproof vests don't stop knives. By the way, you can be stabbed through a bulletproof vest with a knife.
That's right.
Okay? All right. Bulletproof vests stop bullets, and not all bullets.
That's good, man.
Bullets. Okay, depends on what level of threat level that bulletproof vest has.
That's
but
good.
A knife can go through a bulletproof vest.
That's good.
I always hate when they compare. Another thing, I'm sorry to hold
no. This is good,
another
man.
thing is when they compare scenarios. You know, you got this serial or this mass murderer that was safely taken away by the police, but y'all couldn't stop the black girl from you couldn't stop her without taking her life. Basically, you can't compare two police incidents like that. Two heated in the moment officers making the split-second decisions. That's impossible to compare two situations and expect them both to be exactly the same.
Right.
First of all, when you got somebody that's going to an active shooter or something, you know, at that point, maybe that person wasn't actually in the moment of pointing that gun at the officer. But I guarantee you, if that guy pointed that gun at the officer, that officer would have shot and killed him too. Okay. In this kick situation, she was actively in a stabbing motion, and the officer was able to react and respond appropriately and accordingly. But you know, if she would have stayed there and had the knife in her hand, turned around and faced the officer and just stood there, okay, maybe you would have had some time to do something different. You see what I'm saying? Maybe she could have dropped the knife, something like that. If she would have dropped that knife, she wouldn't have been shot.
Well, maybe possibly, guys, maybe if the officer would have ran around and ran to the front of her and let off his 4 shots, then maybe the shooting would have been justified. How about that? Maybe that could have been a good scenario. He should have just ran around the front.
Maybe he should have just called LeBron first. I don't know.
Hold on, don't say that, because you may get suspended.
But look, a person with a knife in the motion of stabbing somebody, or a person with a knife who's threatening someone, a situation could be handled by a different person a different way. But I'll agree with that. Because no scenario is exactly the same.
He didn't have to shoot him at all.
Yeah, she could have been stabbed.
Hey, you know what? I don't want to infringe upon your right to kill. You know, now, you know, I just want to sit back and let this thing play out. And maybe he could have just prayed, and maybe the hand of the Lord would have came down and would have stayed her hand like God did with Abraham, with Isaac when he was on the altar. Maybe he could have just done that. I don't know. I mean, we could have, you know, it could have been a range of possibilities, since everybody wants an armchair quarterback, you know, on the police force.
And then
I would like to hear from the young lady's family in the pink what they think. I bet you they're not. I bet you they're not saying, they killed that. No, I bet they have a different outtake on this whole thing.
I'm wondering though, Corey, is that I wonder are those was that lady in the pink? Is she anyway related as far as a foster child? I think the mother was saying that she had like other foster children there that was older. I'm not sure, but that's somebody's child though. That is somebody's child. You know, and I'm just curious as well. You know, when will they come forward, if at all? Because, you know, matter of fact, they may not because of pressure.
I had made a comment about the lunch lady stopping lunchroom fights with people with knives and stuff. I mean, wow, what kind of schools do we have here with people, with all these students with knives doing knife fights in the lunchroom and stuff like that? In other words, have we become so desensitized to violence, like to that level of violence, that we don't equate that with a deadly force? Have we become so desensitized to that?
Well, one of the ladies from BLM said, I forgot her name. She mentioned that, said that we've been fighting people with knives and having knife fights for the longest. So why did he have to be shot? This was somebody actually said.
I think growing up where we from, Mike, I can tell you I never saw one, and the most I ever heard of was somebody had a box cutter. That was it.
Yeah.
Having lunchroom fights, obviously I didn't grow up Mike and I didn't grow up in that type of area.
No, they had fights, but it wasn't no knives. It
wasn't to the death. It wasn't to the death. It wasn't like they had like this is like some type of Michael Jackson Beat It video where you got your hands wrapped around each other's wrist and y'all just duking it out. Y'all just stabbing each other out until one of you drop. But that's not real life. But this guy Umar is making claims, and again, it's about the influence that these idiots have, and these people are giving false information and trying to tell police how to be police, and they have probably never rode in a squad car, did a ride along, let alone had any type of military or law enforcement training. But wait a minute, I want you to let you listen to the rest of this, because this particular clip, the same video, DJ Envy responds to Umar Johnson's claim about being a coon. Check it out.
Now, I'm not gonna lie, I must be a coon because I don't agree with you on this one, and I'm gonna tell you why. I do agree with you. Those people that walk around with them assault rifles and those white boys that they run around and don't get shot, they should get shot immediately. You come out with a gun, should lay your ass down. Not even a question asked.
Yes.
But this situation, my only thing is this. When the police pulled up, now you're talking to somebody whose father's a retired cop, right?
Yes, sir.
And when that cop pulled up, he doesn't know friend or foe. He doesn't know who called the police, right?
Okay.
He does not know. It wasn't like a sign that said, "Hey, I called the police."
Understood.
They got a call. Hey, I'm getting jumped. Somebody has a weapon, right?
Okay.
Comes out that car. He puts his hand out. First thing he says is, "You see that girl running towards the other girl with the knife up."
Okay.
Right? Police can use deadly weapon to two things: to defend himself and defend another person.
Okay.
You fired his firearm, stopping that girl from getting shot. Now, people could say 4 times, 5 times was a lot. That was a lot of shots. You can take that any which way you want, yes. But his whole thing was to disarm that girl. And at first, I was upset. Why the fuck they shooting that woman? But then I had to sit back and say, let's say that was my daughter sitting on the back of that car and somebody was coming at her aggressively with a knife. She wasn't defending herself. It wasn't like she was defending. She was coming aggressively for that other girl.
Well, she was defending herself, though, Envy. You can't do that. But I mean, they jumped her before and they came to her house. That was her property.
At this point right here, I'm telling you what the cop seen. The cop didn't see the fight.
Okay.
The cop only seen was the girl being aggressive to the other girl. That's all he seen.
Okay.
So at that point, if I'm the father and that's my daughter, I would want to make sure my daughter didn't get stabbed.
Okay.
And that was the only reason I said I understand why that cop did that.
But she shouldn't be dead. 4 times is excessive. There was other ways I think that cop could have intervened without killing that girl.
But that goes into training. Cops are trained to kill.
But let me give you a follow-up. Let me ask you a question. If you are the police.
Here you go.
Correct.
DJ Envy is the police officer. You get out the car. You saw the exact same set of circumstances. Do you shoot her 5 times? Why or why not?
I am not going to shoot her 5 times.
Why?
Honestly,
you don't know how many times.
This is my community, and I know what happens in the community. I understand the fight.
In other words, you value her life.
Right, but I'm gonna
exactly.
Tell you why. And this is going to be a little different.
He took her life because he did not value it.
Right.
Well, she didn't value the other person's life either. Come on, man. Come on, man. Look. No. Because again, these are citizens. This is a lot of mindset of the average citizen who doesn't think it through the way a trained officer would be thinking.
And they have
reasonable.
They got platforms, bro. They're the ones that.
First of all, they get hung up on. They're getting hung up on who called the police. In that situation, it don't matter who called the police.
Right. That's what we just said earlier.
The other person, you're not thinking of, oh, this person called the police, so I'm not going to shoot her. No, that ain't how that works. You see what I'm saying?
Like I said a few minutes ago, when it doesn't matter. Once she came out that house with that knife, and the officer rolled up, like he did say, the officer didn't know who called the call for service. So he doesn't know. He's got to try to put all these pieces together, like we were talking in the beginning of the segment, and domestics, trying to figure out which A, B, and C. Right? She comes out. She's the aggressive one. That's where he's going to be focused on. He, like I said, he didn't know. And to shoot a time, he thinks that was excessive. Okay, obviously this guy, what that was Charlemagne, whatever. All right, he's ignorant. He has no idea what it's like to be in that situation. Like we just said a few minutes ago, one shot, she might have not have felt it because of the drilling. There's nothing else he could have done. You're too far away. They had that 20-foot rule, right? If you're within 20 feet of me and you're high on drugs or whatever, guess what? You can still kill me within those 20 feet, right? Unless I give you a headshot and put you down, right? So one shot, she doesn't feel it because there's a lot of drilling going. 2 shots, she don't feel it. He's got to stop that motion. He's got to stop that motion.
That's
right?
good, man.
Where is she? Let me see.
She's coming down.
Up here. She's coming here. He's got to stop that. 1 shot. Do you think she still could stab her? Yes. 2 shots. Could he steal? What if he missed that 2nd shot? What if he did? His aim was low. Hit her in the butt.
People,
you put enough in. You put enough in there. You put enough in there to stop the threat.
That's good.
If it's 1, good. If it's 6, 7, 8, okay.
And I can tell you,
the full magazine. If it's the full magazine, it's the full magazine.
You're probably never going to just take 1 bullet to stop somebody. I'm going to tell you that right now. Okay. With the way I have trained, the way officers train, we train, you keep shooting till that threat is gone. You're not thinking of just 1 shot and I'm done. I'm gonna give you an example. If you've ever, and I don't mean to make light of the situation.
I'm still hearing some echoing in the background. I'm not really
I hear that too. I'm trying to figure out why that is. I haven't changed anything.
Okay.
Maybe you know what? I might be too close to my mic. Let me back up. Okay.
Go ahead.
So I don't mean to make light of the scenario, but I'm gonna compare it to a video game. If you ever played a video game called Call of Duty, we all know what Call of Duty is, right?
Right.
Okay. So when you got that controller in your hand and you see that opponent coming at you and getting ready to shoot you or whatever they're getting ready to do, and you're getting ready to pull that controller trigger that simulates the firing of your weapon that you're carrying, right? In the video game.
Right.
You don't just pull that trigger 1 time, do you? When you got that person coming at you, you don't just pull that controller trigger 1 time.
Nope.
You mashing that button. You
right.
see what I'm saying? You're mashing that button multiple times, as many times you can, until that opponent is dropped or stopped, until that threat is gone.
Right.
Think of it that way. Okay. Because that's kind of like the same way if you're presented with a situation in a matter of a second that you got to make a response and you got to stop that threat from coming at you or coming at the girl in this case.
Yeah.
Okay. You're not just going to pull that trigger 1 time and be like, oh, that's it. Let's see what happens.
Right.
No.
Right.
You're gonna pull that trigger until that motion that you see is stopped. You see what I'm saying? And more than likely, that's going to be at least a couple of shots.
Right.
And that's on a where you got a little bit of time to make that reaction.
Now you did have an incident. The incident I think happened a week before this one here was with the Adam Toledo in Chicago.
Yeah. Right.
All right. The officer did right. That was a good shoot too. I know people aren't gonna like hearing that, but
and explain bro, real quick. I want you to explain why that was a good shoot, despite the fact that he turned and his hands were up. Why would that be considered a good shoot? And I agree with you though, but why would you consider that to be a good shoot?
The last thing he saw in his right hand was that gun. Now he did it at one motion. So as he was turning around, he was throwing the gun. So that fence was right there, and the way that officer was positioned, he couldn't see that he threw it. So he's thought is, okay, this guy is gonna turn around and shoot me. I gotta get him before he get me because I'm open in the element. I have no cover. There's no concealment. So he's standing in the alley exposed. So I don't want you to make that full turnaround. I know you got that gun in your hand.
Because you saw it.
Because I just saw it. And he had 8, they counted, they said he had 0.8 of a second to make that decision.
Man.
And he shot the well, at the time he didn't know it was a little boy. He shot the young man one time and he dropped. And that was his training. That was what he did and what he was supposed to do. Now, where it would have been excessive, say he shot him and he falls to the ground and then he just stands over and then boom, 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 and then unloads him. Now that's excessive. He ought to be held accountable for that if he did that. That was totally wrong. You shoot until the threat is stopped. So if you shoot once and he drops, such in this case here, you're done. If he'd have kept trying to come, swing around, lift his arm up, and you shoot again until he stops.
I mean, and my only thing is we can't get so caught up into how many times they shot. I think the big decision is they decided to shoot. That's what the decision was.
The bigger decision is look at the reason why they in this situation. That's where we need to look
split hairs all day about, well, he should have shot him 3 times instead of 5. What we're talking about is a human's response to what they perceive individually as a threat, to how many times they individually had felt they needed to pull that trigger. And I think sometimes the community gets too caught up into how many shots were fired. You see what I'm saying? Now, as an investigation, for shooting investigation, that is part of the investigation. Yes, it is. Okay. But in the heat of the moment, you're not counting bullets. Officers are not counting bullets. They are handling a threat, responding to it, and that's it. I'm not thinking of, let's see, how many bullets? I got 2 shots. I'm not thinking about that. I'm pulling that trigger until I need to stop.
So then why is it, I guess, so we have this now overwhelming view of police. What made you two retire from being police? In light of what you see going on today, would you encourage people to join the police force? If so, why? If not, why
not? I did 7 years as a state trooper, but I left because another thing I always wanted to do was own my own business. So I felt it was no better time than the present to leave and start. Now it's still in me being a police officer. It's still in me. Like I say, I think it's who I am. This is why another reason why I started is there was no way I was going to put the uniform back on again and put my wife back through that emotional roller coaster again. So for me, it was like, okay, this is another part of me coming out here and telling people how it is to be a law enforcement. Like, you have no idea unless you walked in these shoes. You can Monday morning quarterback all you want, but until you know all the facts, you're speculating. And then, like I said, you got these guys that, what you say, 2 million people following. I mean, you're poisoning them to think that, all cops are, out here just killing black people. Well, look how the idiocy you're speaking. Do you see black dead bodies laying all over the place? No, but this is what they're telling them, and this is what they're believing, and it's wrong. I mean, we still need police officers, and we need good police officers. So, I mean, I would never tell someone to not do that, especially if you feel in your heart that's what you want to do. I wouldn't do that. I'm glad I'm doing what I'm doing now, speaking in this manner here. And I'm sure Mike, he did retire, so I'm sure he's got some different insight to share with you.
Yeah, I mean, out here in California, at the time when I became a police officer, the retirement plan that they had was you retire at 50 years old, as long as you could be what they call maxed out with CalPERS, which is the retirement for the state of California. you could be maxed out with 30 years in there to get a full retirement. I was a police officer. I started being a police officer at 24. And when I hit 50, I had done 6 years in the Army, so I actually bought back 4 more years to add on to my retirements. So that ultimately on the books, it gives me 30 years. So when I hit 50, it really just came down to I was working for free. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I might as well I would get this paycheck anyway if I retired. So why continue to risk my body? But being a police officer is a young man's game. I don't care what a lot of people don't realize that being a street cop is a young man's game.
Can I just make one statement or either put it in the form of a question? And I don't mean to be unloving or rude or insensitive or body shame anybody, but I see a lot of fat cops on the force. What they gonna catch? A Twinkie?
Good point. It is an officer's responsibility to stay physically fit.
My boy Eric Mordrew talks about that all the time. He says it on his stuff. How you a police officer and you breathing? It's like you beatboxing and there ain't no music. I'm like you can't hardly breathe. I mean I'm seeing a lot of obese cops on the force. How you gonna chase somebody down? Most likely, you mess around and go into cardiac arrest.
You get hurt too, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a believe it or not, that has always been a talking point within the police departments of how they can make physical fitness a requirement. And most of the time, the only required physical fitness test you require to take as a police officer is in the academy. And once you graduate the academy, it's on you to maintain your level of fitness. There's no annual test that you take to make sure you are maintaining your level of fitness. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, I will say, that it's always part of that profession is you need to be in shape. You know what I'm saying? Now, after so many years, I ain't gonna lie, I probably lost a lot of. Ain't nobody is in good shape at 24.
Right.
I mean, at 50 as they are at 24. Obviously, right?
Right.
We all, but still, you need to be able to do A, B, C, and D on a physical level. And as long as you can do A, as long as you can climb that wall if you need to, or as long as something like that, you can do those things, you should be good. However, there's another side of that coin. And the other side of that coin is even though you might see those officers that are overweight,
right?
You also got to consider the knowledge that they have of doing the job. Yeah, they may not be able to chase that dude for 100 yards. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But the knowledge they have to go get that dude later, the knowledge they have of how to do the job as far as the different laws that you can apply in different situations, the knowledge they have as far as training people on how to do the job too. You can't. That's the thing. You can't replace that either. You see what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
They may not be physically fit enough, like I say, to sprint 100 yards, but they got so much knowledge that you could use them in other ways. And working on the street, being a patrol officer, I can tell you right now that I got to a point where if you was going to take off from me, I wasn't going to chase you for so long anyway. Especially if I already had your identification. Gotcha. I knew who you were. I knew where you lived. I knew where you hung out. I knew I was going to be able to get you again.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to risk my physical safety, but so far.
Gotcha.
And I think at 50 years old, when you hit 50, I think that's a good age for you to sit back and realize, should you still continue to do this? How valuable for you, both physically and mentally, is it beneficial for you to continue that job? And I think 50 years old is a good age for a patrol officer to say, okay, it's time to back that up, slow that down.
I have a question here on the screen, and I have another question I want to pose that's on in the chat. So Kyla asked this question: is there an age limit for a ride along, or what is the beginning age and the limit? if there is one for
Well,
ride along?
Here in Virginia for state police, and I'll just speak on state police, we don't do ride-alongs. I forget the actual reason, so forgive me what it was, but it was liability
Yeah, I figured that. Yeah, I figured it would be.
So,
yeah.
but I mean, you can always check with your local precincts and see if they do ride-alongs, and they'll let you know if they would do those things. But no, for Virginia State Police, no, we didn't do ride-along, and that's something I have wished that they did do, because I think that opens you up on a little bit, give you a little insight of what a daily life is like with a police officer. So, but then again, they're not going to let you get into a lot of, dangerous stuff.
Right.
So, I mean, but you never know how these situations can turn out anyways. But I would say just check with your local precincts on that matter for here in Virginia.
And for us, we had a ride-along program, and if I'm not mistaken, I think the earliest you could get a ride-along was at 16 years old, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I'm sure every department probably has a slightly different policy. And for our ride-alongs, you did just that. You sat in a patrol car right next to me. You saw me respond to calls. You saw me make traffic stops. If it was something dangerous that I felt might be a risk for your safety, I would tell you to stay in the car. There would be times that I would allow the rider to come with me into a home to take a report, unless the homeowner said, I would introduce my rider to the homeowner and explain why they're there. And sometimes the homeowner would say, officer, I would just like for you to come in, which is fine. I would honor that, and the rider can sit back in the car. But most of the time, the homeowner didn't have a problem with the ride along being there with me. But I do encourage you to do those things. Check with your local police department, establish a relationship with them, know what resources and what programs they have for the community. A lot of them have stuff like citizens academies. We had a citizens academy where you go through an actual mini academy at your local police department. You graduate from that academy with a certificate. We had them sometime where they would go to the range. They would learn policies and procedures of their police department and their local police department.
Yeah.
And what they do. I would encourage people to do those things. So yeah, because if you want to ride along, look it up. That's
good. Somebody asked a question or made a statement. It said lots of cops are not physically fit, and they have women cops. Policeman is a man's job, but for the law of the land. So the question, I guess I'll tie this in. What is your take on women in law enforcement? Are you for or against?
I'll answer to that because I give you a situation. Now, when I went through the academy, I went through another gentleman, for whatever reason, didn't want this particular female there. Because she was short, and his logic of thinking was that she wouldn't be able to do the job. And I remember our conversation. I would say, "Hey, man, if this is her destiny, you cannot control that. We don't know. I mean, if this is where God has led her to be an officer, then so be it." But he said, "But yeah, dog. But if she get in a fight, I don't want to be her shit partner because she get in a fight, and I gotta fight for her and myself." And I like, well, it is what it is. She'll realize that if it's for her or not when she's out there on the road. But we cannot dictate whether or not she is capable of doing this. Now, I've served with plenty of women on there that can handle themselves. And there are some, and there's one in particular that's still out there. You can be my shit partner anytime. Cause I know she's gonna handle herself. And if I got into something and she was my shit partner and I called for that backup, I know she was gonna come down and she was gonna get dirty with me. Right. So I don't never judge what somebody can. Heck, there are men out here who can't do the job, that can't fight a lick, or gonna take their time to get to you. Or there are some that if I got into a fight on the side of the road, I'd be like, "Hey, I don't want that dude coming." Because you know what I mean? So it goes both ways. But if you can do the job, you trained right, then you should be able to do the job. And it doesn't matter whether you're female or not. But you can't. Yeah, but you have guys out there like that just gonna try to be judgmental whether or not a woman or something can do the job or not. Now, yeah, they're at a high risk because they're female, and you know you're 5'4", 5'5", or whatever, 120 pounds, and you're going to try to detain a 6'3", 285 male. Right, there's going to be some issues there.
I think that's where the concern is. I mean, and of course we giving each other giving opinion, but I think that's where the concern is as far as roles or responsibilities. I mean, because we're living in a society now where women are being told they can do anything a man can do. Personally, I don't believe that. I believe that that's unbiblical. I believe that God has placed men and women in different roles and functions. Case in point, men don't have babies. That's an obvious reason, right? So, but you have men who want to be women, and then you have women who want to be men. So we have an inversion, and even I would even say a perversion of roles and responsibilities. Now, do what you want, but understand choices have consequences as well. So although my wife is not called to be the prophet or be the priest, prophet, and protector of our home, if she tries to assume that role, then it comes with consequences. So it's kind of like being out of pocket, or like this cup that I have here in my hand. This cup is used to hold something. It's used to hold contents, right? Liquid contents or whatever, or even solids. But the moment I put this cup and turn this cup upside down, it can't hold anything. And I think that's true when it comes to our roles and responsibilities in society, but really starts in the home. I think the problem comes is when we don't give biblical precedent to what God has ordained. Now, of course, you can do whatever you want. Just understand that what you want may not be what God has designed you to want. And I think when it comes to responsibilities, we need to be honest with each other, be honest with ourselves, and say, okay, now listen, baby, honey, I understand you may have seen, Wonder Woman on TV. I understand that. I understand that you may have seen, the Avengers, and you saw, what's that chick, Scarlett Johansson. You may have seen her. I got that. But we're talking about real life stuff here, right? I would not want my wife to be a police officer, not because she don't know how to shoot a gun, because she does, not because she couldn't know how to use handcuffs, because she probably do, but when it comes to a physical confrontation with another man, let me give you an example. And I know we almost 3 hours into this thing. I knew we was gonna be talking. I knew it, but
it don't feel like
it. Real, man. This is
real. Feel like 3 hours.
It don't. I want to read this story to y'all. Right. This is a true story. On the morning of October 5th, 2016, a female officer in Chicago was nearly beaten to death because she was afraid to use her weapon. She thought she was going to die. Her superintendent told reporters the next day she knew that she should shoot this guy, but she chose not to because she didn't want her family or the department to have to go through the scrutiny the next day on national news. Mm-hmm. This was in Chicago, of all places, by the way, y'all.
But that frame of thinking, that's men are having that same mindset too.
I agree. Like, I agree with you. I agree with you. But you haven't. But I mean, I guess just for the sake of illustration, right? A man trying to take on another man, you have a greater advantage than a woman trying to take on another man.
Sure.
This is from a physiological standpoint.
Rule of thumb. Yeah. I would agree. But my take on that is there's so many other aspects of police work.
I agree.
Besides getting into a fight with somebody that a female would be quite beneficial for. Obviously, we got plenty of females on the police force. So I'm not sure if I agree with females have no business being police officers. I don't really agree with that because there's too many other aspects where they do have a business and can do it better than men in some cases. When you talk about the counseling aspects of it, when you talk about dealing with crisis, going into families, dealing with crisis, not on a physical level. I'm talking about on a mental level, mental health issues. Women can be better. There's so many different things that they can do as far as policemen go. But yeah, I have definitely been working alongside a lot of female officers that have been in fights with a lot of female officers that they can't handle their own. But the rule of thumb, I will agree that if you put a female against the male and a male against the male, that fight, the male has a better chance than the female simply because they're naturally the stronger of the two, right?
Yeah.
But keep in mind, cops don't fight fair. When you get into a fight, we expect to go toe-to-toe with somebody.
Right. Yeah, ain't such thing as a fair fight. Yeah.
We expect to control you. We are paid to take over and control you with whatever necessary means we have to do so.
Yeah.
So we ain't gonna sit up there and duke it out with you. We ain't gonna do that. You see what I'm saying? That's not what cops do.
Right.
Okay. So and fortunately in the agency I worked in, we rode one officer per car. But your cover unit was always less than a couple minutes away. You see what I'm saying? The way our city was divided up in the districts that you worked in, if somebody really needed to cover, they was going to be there in under 5 minutes most of the time. You see what I'm saying? So, that's all I'll say about that. I wouldn't discourage females who want to be cops. I wouldn't discourage them or men. I would like to see more diversity within the police department's ranks. Okay. Obviously, historically, you looked at a police officer, it was usually a white guy. Okay. I want to see more diversity. I want to see more departments proactively make those decisions to make sure their departments are more diverse. If you don't have any black guys, I'm gonna tell you right now, if you don't have any black guys on your department, you need to be making a proactive, conscious decision to try to get more black or whatever it is you don't have. Make a conscious decision to get those officers on that force because your police need to look like everybody. You see what I'm saying? And I would like to see more black officers on the street. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. For instance, in our department, one of the things I did was I was part of the recruitment team. We actively tried to get minorities, black people, on our department actively, but for some reason they just wouldn't come. I don't know if it was because black.
Roll it back to what we already talked about.
We would actively try to get black people to please come apply here. This is a great place to work. These are the advantages of having this kind of career. It's a solid, dependable career. Yeah, there are risks to it. I understand that. But if this is something you're interested in, if you're a veteran, and this is something you're interested in, you got some life experience. We tried to get them. So it wasn't for lack of trying.
I think the problem is because what we just talked about, mostly doing this whole live is the media. I mean, if you haven't black people to believe that they're the problem, or the police is the problem to a black person, then why would a black person want to join anything that you are already drilling and instilling and indoctrinating in their mind that they're trying to kill?
They're probably getting me number one. Looking at the comments here, Robbins, that was her question. Could the lack of diversity be to the way the media is portraying officers?
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right. Absolutely.
Because right now they got cops as made out as being racist. And then if you're a black police officer, we're looked at as coons or sellouts.
Yep.
You wanted them, but that's what is causing a lot of probably minorities to not join the police force. And that's sad that they're doing it. And again, this is why we like having these types of conversations so we can try to change that way of thinking. Like, no, that's not it. If you want to pack change, and me and Mike had talked about this in one of our videos, if you want to pack change, then you need to be proactive yourself. Quit complaining about how they are and do something.
Yep.
Going out and burning down your community and is not going to solve the issue. If you want to solve the issue, join the police force. Yeah. All right. Solve the problem that way. You're right. There you go. And I think that's what it is. But again, and I think that's we might make that our video for next week. How the media is playing a role in this.
Yeah, because they're playing a huge role, bro. I mean, they're playing a damaging role, and it's getting people killed. It really is. From the media to the politicians, man. I mean, and the only thing we can do, well, I can say only thing. One of the things we can do is continue to have discussions like this, and refer people to information like this that may not know, and then also I'll tie into this question that Adrian have, and then I have one more question regarding LeBron, and then we'll wrap it up. So Adrian said this: what role does the gospel play in policing and citizen non-cooperation? I'll let you gentlemen answer that question if you like. What roles does the gospel play in policing and citizen non-cooperation? Because can y'all proselytize? Y'all pay the gospel to folks on the force, are you? I mean, y'all got time to be doing that?
Well, actually, I would use that as a platform. I would try to steer away from it. I would probably do it in a non-discreet way.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I mean? Without, obviously mixing, state and religion.
Right.
Trying to stay away from that and give them an outlook. Hey, man, this could have really been bad. Do you think I probably, saved your life by stopping you today for this traffic violation or whatever, and get them to thinking differently? I was like, man, you really could have ended, differently. Hey, man, I don't know about you, but somebody was probably looking out for you today because there's no way you should have survived that car crash. Somebody was looking out for you. It's like, I would put it away to where they would bring out their faith, if you will. Yeah. And then that would allow me to, say God was truly had a hand on this for you today.
Right. And that's almost an essay question.
Yeah, because it takes wisdom to do this kind of. The Bible talks about he who wins souls must be wise. So it's about wisdom, and it's also about timing, and at the same time, your responsibility as police officers isn't really to preach the gospel; it's to protect and serve. Right. As ministers, as God's ministers. Now, there's a time and place that we talk about in Ecclesiastes 3. But when you're on a call, your call and that moment ain't to go evangelize. It's to respond to whatever issue that you have been called to do. Now, if God sovereignly and then based on providence allows an opportunity, and key word is opportunity, to come through that, then praise God for that. But the responsibility of law enforcement is not pastoring and shepherding communities. That's actually the parents' responsibility and the church's responsibility. The responsibility for the state or the responsibility for law enforcement is what it says, key word, to enforce the law. That's what it's there for. So but last but not least, gentlemen, because I'm gonna let y'all run, but I can't let y'all go too fast without answering this question regarding your hometown homie, LeBron. He put a target on the back of a fellow officer of y'all's, formerly speaking, but nonetheless, law enforcement officer. And he's made statements, and I'm pretty sure you've heard it, that basically black people are being killed by the police. He's tired of black folk getting killed by the police. It just he said, matter of fact, he's the ambassador for all black folk. He says that we're afraid to go down to walk down the street. What is your response to the statements that when you hear people say things like LeBron? I mean, this man has millions of followers. He has huge influence. So much influence to where the NBA is basically kowtowing and basically trying to accommodate the systemic, quote unquote, perceived systemic racism that I believe personally is not a threat. There are no systems in place to keep black people down, and if it is, it's self-induced. But nonetheless, I'll just say this: when we talk about people with influence like LeBron, and he makes statements like this regarding police officers, who, by the way, is being protected by the very ones when he goes to these stadiums and these games, outside of his own private security. He has police that are basically there to protect his own life, but he's saying that these people, the police, are systemically racist. What is your response to that?
You know, for me, in spite of what he said about police, I'm still a fan of LeBron. You know what I'm saying? However,
Yeah.
LeBron, to me, when he made those statements, it sounds like it really sounds like every other citizen who is following the media and is allowing the media, the incidents that are played on the media, is allowing that to form their perceptions of their own, their own personal perception of what police are like. And what I would say to LeBron is I would encourage him to get out and do a ride along, get to know his police department in his neighborhood. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Does he know the names of the police officers that patrol his neighborhood at 2:00 in the morning? You know what I mean? Get to know those people. They're people like you. They're not out to kill you. You see what I'm saying? And be careful about letting the media sway your perception of this. I'm afraid to come out of my home because I'm gonna get shot by the cops because I'm a black man.
Right.
You know, I definitely want to try to crush that narrative.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Black folks don't need to be afraid to go out of their house. They don't need to teach their sons anything different than any other son would be taught. The things that we're showing you, calm. It don't matter what race you are. You follow those things, you do what you're supposed to do, you're gonna be fine. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So, I mean, that's the only thing I could say about LeBron is I see him as somebody who's fallen victim to. They're just responding or reacting to what they're seeing on television. Yeah. And I don't. And again, I don't know his personal experiences.
Right.
I don't know if LeBron had some personal experience with police that was really negative or something like that. I don't know. I can't answer that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what do you got to say about that, Corey?
Well, I would just say two things. Like we just said earlier, I mean, I think clearly he ought to follow the example of Shaquille O'Neal, become a part-time deputy.
Yep.
In the off season, right? I guarantee that changed his mindset right there. Second, as you think as police officer gunning down black people every day, obviously he forgot about or hasn't heard about what's going on in Chicago, Los Angeles, up in Minnesota, Missouri,
St. Louis,
Detroit, New York, all these big metropolitan cities where blacks are killing blacks at an alarming rate right now, and nobody ever says a word about that. But you're quick to believe that a police officer is out here gunning down black people all day. If that's the truth, when you leave your house this afternoon, wherever y'all may be, to all your viewers and our viewers who are watching, see how many dead bodies, black bodies you see laying down on the street.
Right.
That's a lot. Right. They're not being out here gunned down. Like we said earlier, that's not what police want to get involved in. We don't want to be involved in no shooting, right? That we don't want that. Right. And for you to sit out here and believe that, you like the scripture said, I'm sure you can find it in the Bible for me there, Pastor, but you have to be careful about what you listen to.
Amen.
Because what you listen to is going to change your whole perspective on things, and it's a lie.
Right.
It's a lie, and you're going to believe it, right? So anytime these things happen, I just encourage everybody just relax. It may look bad because remember the media is only going to show you the worst part of the video. They're not going to show you what led up to it. They're just going to show you the after effect, and then they're going to play on words. They're going to play on the words. So you have to read between the lines of what these people are saying in the media and all these headlines, right? So before we react, let's stay calm and look and see what's going on first. Let's get the whole story before we go out here and just want to start burning your towns down. You protest, Mike and I, you will never hear us say anything negative about protesting correctly.
Not at all.
The way Dr. King protests.
And
right?
like I said this multiple times in the past. Just because I'm a strong police, obviously I'm a strong police supporter. I was a cop myself for 26 years. So I'm, in spite of being a strong police supporter, that doesn't mean I'm resistant to change either. Okay. If there is a better way, and I've said that, me and Corey said this on our show, if there's a better way of doing something, hey, I'm more than open to sitting down, having a discussion about what that is specifically that we can improve on. So I'm not sitting up here saying, you know, cops are always right and the way we do things has always got to be this way. And this now, unless it comes to safety obviously never can change, right? We all have to do things safely. You see what I'm saying? If you have a safe way for us to both accomplish a task and not have to shoot someone, hey, okay, I'm open to listening to what your idea is. You see what I'm saying? Do we need changes or improvements in the criminal justice system as a whole? Perhaps we do. I ain't gonna sit here and say that we only stuck in one way of doing things. Basically. You see what I'm saying? So I do understand that element of do we need improvements or changes in the criminal justice system as a whole, or policing? Is there things that we can sit down, revisit, look at different policies, procedures that are in place, and see how they can be improved? Of course. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with finding better ways or even safer ways of doing something. But when it comes down to the meat and potatoes, when you get stopped out there on the street, you need to go with what that officer is telling you to go with.
Exactly.
Comply, answer questions, listen to the instructions, and so you can ultimately move on.
I'm gonna close this article. Rick Blatchford. He wrote an article. Matter of fact, this month, the 27th of this month, it's titled "When Instructed by Police, Comply to Avoid Potential Issues." And I'm just going to read some quotes in here. He says, quote, "Many are concerned when law enforcement officers, LEOs, have a fatal encounter, especially with young people. Having read many such reports, I've determined that the solution is simple. It's been repeated ad nauseum, so I'm not revealing anything new, simply repeating the obvious. Sadly, thus far, it seems that the word isn't getting out. The solution is when a law enforcement officer, aka cop, gives you instructions, comply. I've heard of parents who tell stories about sitting their kids down to have what they call the talk, how to interact with police. Interestingly, my parents never felt such a talk to be necessary. Why? It was due to the fact that I was brought up to respect the law and to be especially respectful to law enforcement officers and all adults. At no point in my life would it have occurred to me to talk back to a cop. In my particular case, had I ever mouthed off to a law enforcement officer, I would have had to deal with my dad after the law enforcement officer was done with me. No way. So see, so far, you see, he had a father in the home. It starts with the father. It starts with the head of the household. He says, continue quoting, "Comprende? It only takes common sense. Chris Rock once gave a comedic lecture to the youth of this country. His stand-up routine included a warning not to mess with someone who wears a badge, carries a stick designed to hurt you, has cuffs to restrain you, and a gun to do whatever should all else fail. Who in their right mind messes with someone who legally carries a firearm? To all who have, what were you thinking?" So come on, people. Accept an encounter that may inconvenience you for a bit. Surely it beats the potential alternative, which can and does put lives at risk. For those who choose to resist, the alternative for you and your family can be devastating for a long, long time. Now, one might assume that older Americans, in an effort to guide and protect youngins, as my parents did, would strongly educate the youngins in proper, potentially life-saving behavior when interacting with all adults, let alone law enforcement officers acting in an official capacity. I would suspect that most do, but sadly, there exists potential role models that actually work to the detriment of the young. These would include people such as the Reverend Al Sharpton, Reverend Jesse Jackson, Reverend Jeremiah Wright, Congresswoman Maxine Waters, various rappers, and innumerable other rabble-rousers who have influential access to America's youth. Add to the list anyone who has advocated the philosophy to, quote, resist authority, end quote. If kids were instilled with proper respect for others, all others, how many more of them would be alive today? How much personal injury and property damage might have been avoided? In closing, I've had only one negative encounter with a law enforcement officer. This man in Howard County truly concerned me. He was angry without cause. That being the case, I was extra careful to accede to his instructions and totally compliant. I was on my way in 5 minutes. Most law enforcement officers are carrying protectors of civilians. They deserve respect and thanks for all that they do. It's so simple. If a cop tells you something, just do it. Remember, it's only a temporary inconvenience. Choose life and or freedom. Learn to tolerate life's exceptions and inconveniences. Like the poor, they will always be with us. End of quote.
Wow.
You have us discussing this on another hour.
Yeah.
Brother, hey, man, I appreciate it, man. I really appreciate this discussion. I know we went a little bit over time, quote unquote, but man, I think the information was priceless. And I just want to thank you both first and foremost for serving your communities, serving the people, taking the time even to be here on this live and sharing the information that you gave us on today. Again, just to recap it, for those who just came in and just missed it, we talked about calm, comply, answer questions, listen, and move on. And we gave biblical precedent and biblical support for each one. Comply, Romans 13, 1-15. Answer questions, Ecclesiastes 3:7b and Proverbs 15, 1 and 2. Listen, James 1:19, Proverbs 18:13, and Proverbs 29:20. And then lastly, move on. Go on about your business once you are properly relieved and given permission to leave that engagement or that encounter with the police. 2 Samuel 3:21, Genesis 50, verse 4-6, and Matthew 8, verse 9. Those are the tips. Those are the points, the acronyms, if you will, aligning with biblical principles. So, brothers, I thank you, man, again for the time to let people know how they can get in contact with you. Corey?
Yeah, you go over onto YouTube at Brothers-in-Law. That's BROTHAS-N-Law. Or you can check us out over on Instagram at Brothers-in-Law_21, or over on Facebook at Brothers-in-Law. We love to hear from you. Come check us out. We post a video every Thursday. So head on over to our YouTube channel and check us out. Like, share, and subscribe. Let us get this word out about staying calm.
That's right.
If you like for Mike and I to do a Zoom conference with your students, whether it be at the middle school, high school, or at the college level, hit us up, man. Or we can come to you. Everybody's got their shots so far. We can come to you and do it in class. We love to talk, as you guys hear. So we've been on this for 3 hours, so we love to talk, and we're very passionate about what
like to talk more than I do, but it's all good.
Michael, let me know how they can reach out to you, man.
All right, you can reach me the same way that Corey just said. You can reach us the same way. I'm also on Facebook. You can reach me through our Brothers-in-Law Facebook page too, or the Instagram page. It's great to be on this show, Seiko. I appreciate. I want to thank you for allowing us to come on here and just give some basic, like I say, the information we give. Yes. It's just the basic information that we feel a lot of average citizens simply don't know. They don't have a lot of experience dealing with police, or they don't understand some of the experiences that they've had with police. So if they can get anything out of this, It's stuff like that, and this will apply no matter what kind of officer you come across.
Right. Good point, man. Good points. Again, man, I appreciate it, man. I like I said, we're gonna do more of these again. I'm gonna be talking about probably and maybe have a panel of law enforcement officers like you, Mike, and there's a sister that was on my live last week, Rhonda Young. She's a former police officer. I might bring also Eric Mulger on. I want to have a police officer panel discussion and dialogue regarding this whole idea regarding systemic racism. There are some people that think that systemic racism is causing a lot of this stuff going on. I don't hold to that, but as police officers, I want to get y'all's take on it and maybe do another live on that and just get a panel of police officers formally or even actively to address these things and regarding quote unquote racism or whatever, because I think that having the right information and making sure that we are giving out right information is going to be the key to change. So I definitely appreciate you guys, man, for coming on.
No, you got
thank you again. We appreciate you.
Yes,
like, share, and subscribe to us.
That's right.
I'll see you on Tuesday.
That's a direct order, y'all. That's a direct order. They gave y'all a direct order. Follow it. Appreciate y'all, man.
Peace.
All right.
Peace.
God bless you.
All right, y'all. Thank y'all for staying here with me and hanging out with us for these 3 hours and 20 minutes. I'm definitely grateful to these brothers, man, for coming on and sharing this information. Again, please like and subscribe and share this video. It will be posted for your review on both YouTube and on Facebook. Again, if you'd like to support the ministry financially, you can do that as well. Again, through PayPal. $SaikoWoods at $SaikoWoods, and then PayPal is SaikoWoods@yahoo.com. So Cash App, $SaikoWoods, PayPal, SaikoWoods@yahoo.com. Again, BCV gear. I'll put that information in the description and also in the chat information as well. If you'd like to support the ministry through the Teespring link. So again, I'll be doing another live tomorrow. Tomorrow's discussion, I will be having a brother in the Lord, Amon Edwards. He and I will be discussing. I guess you want to title it from a theological standpoint: Calvinism and Arminianism. What role does man play, or what role is man responsible with regards to salvation? So, you may want to tune into that. That'll be tomorrow afternoon, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, 3 p.m. Eastern. So, tell a friend. Again, hit the like button on this video, notification bell on the video, share this video. Appreciate you all's support. Love you guys. Y'all have a great day. Y'all know the drill. Whatever you do all to the glory and honor of God. God bless.